Live and Unplug here, Crave IFDA Podcast.
Good to be here.
Good being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Do you want me to start with an introduction? Or?
Yeah, sure. Tell what's the elevator pitch on you? How about that?
All right. Andrew Parker. I'm the executive director of a program called Be Pro, Be Proud, entering its 10th year, entering its 8th state, program to promote the pursuit of technical careers as options of first choice.
Fantastic. And I can tell you love what you do. What is it that you love, or what's the why behind this? There you go. I'll go Simon Sinek on you.
Yeah. So we are trying to put a new spin on the pursuit of a trade. The why for me is that when I was a kid, my dad said, son, you're doing great in school, but you really ought to pursue a trade. And my response was, Dad, I'm not going to go do that. That's what the dumb kids go do. I went through life with this attitude about these things, and he was being very kind. Yes, I was capable, but I was more interested in how a desk was put together than sitting there using it for purposes of schoolwork. And that's how I have always been. And I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial bent to it. It was the way that these things were positioned. That's the why. The why is we should be promoting the pursuit of technical careers as professions so that kids like me will say, I'm going to go do that, and open a door for incredible success.
Well, listen, I think you'll appreciate this. So I'm Canadian, and I help with the strategic plan with all the technical colleges in Canada. And the biggest barrier that they're having is not the kids wanting to choose. It's the parents that want to wear this university sweatshirt because there's a football team.
Yeah, the idea that you grow out of peer pressure is ridiculous. A parent is only interested in the success of their child. They want their child to be successful in whatever that is, but we promote the things that we know. And what we know is what we have seen and throughout a lot of different sources. But to go to college is the success of a parent. I have gotten my kid to a place where they're going to college. Sometimes, for a first generation college doesn't equal success. And the conversation at the cocktail party is not, well, what's your son or daughter going to pursue? Because the answer is like, I don't know. 6 years later, they're still trying to figure out the answer.
Well, you know what's interesting? Obviously, there's an AI theme like you would expect here. I think that's a great opportunity for trades as well because
technical professions, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Right. Yeah, words matter.
That's right.
Words matter. So thank you for the correction. So technical professions, because if you're good at what you do, wow, you're going to make great money. You're going to feel great about the work you do, and you're going to be in high demand. That's not going away.
It's not an exact application, but I should have been a plumber because what do you pay when your plumber is needed? Whatever it takes.
Yeah, there is no pricing sensitivity.
What does the city pay when a plumber is needed? Yeah. And it's whatever it takes. There are billions of dollars in that one piece alone on the table. Not near enough people that are pursuing the jobs that are available. The work, the firms that are doing the work are not nearly enough. As a country ages like ours is, as we celebrate 200 years coming up, there are water systems across this country that are failing, and there is a huge opportunity for the next generation of wealth creators to be born. And they're going to be in this space.
And within the space, is there something specific that you're working on, let's call it special projects, that really has you fired up? Because you feel that, wow, you're starting to cross a chasm or you're pushing the boundaries. There's something that comes to mind.
Well, everything that we're doing is pretty much exactly that. So in this space, we're a first-time participant here, a partnership created by the leadership team at Benny Keith Foods that introduced us to IFDA, that introduced to Lisa. And so now we're here on the floor at this event. We have a mobile workshop. It's a semi-tractor trailer full of simulators that allow audiences to put their hands on the things they might encounter if they go into a profession in high demand across sectors, a lot of which overlap with the food distribution industry. So there's incredible opportunity for the experience that students tomorrow are going to have to be able to connect with the employers, to learn firsthand in a relevant and credible way of how do I go become the next generation creator. Like I bet a lot of the companies that are on this floor in the expo space or the companies that are here as attendees experience themselves. So the wow thing is that the opportunity is all the little pieces are coming together in a remarkable way. And we're changing that perception for parents, but also the education community, who are also born out of the idea that we want to help students continue their educational path to obtain success, when maybe it's not quite so clearly outlined for every individual.
Well, just as a side note, I love the experience you're creating here, because as we know, there's visual learners, auditory learners, kinetic learners. So to try to do something and play with it, I think is really cool.
You put individuals who have walked the walk and are sharing a story that is relevant to their own experience. It's authenticity is important. You put that group of people with the right tools, and you put partners in place like the people that are here in places that matter, where it's going to have maximum impact, as our full tour schedule does. You can provoke a really tremendous outcome. So we are 1,000 or more tour stops annually across the active states, engaging over 100,000 students annually, with the opportunity to take interest that's sparked by the experience and share it with the partners who are recruiting these students for, let me tell you how to get to the next thing. It's a remarkable thing that can occur.
Well, whether it's here today or in your travels, is there an insight? Is there something you're learning around the mindset, or a shift that's happening? Or is there something, a key takeaway for you? Because you're on a learning journey as well, even though you're the one kind of driving the ship.
Well, there's a book a friend of mine keeps pointing me to, of what got you here won't keep you here.
Yeah.
So we, as an organization, the things that I have learned here from crashing the sessions has been really powerful about all the different mechanical things that go into keeping these things happening. But also the demand is as raw today as it was 10 years ago when we started.
I can tell you that book from Marshall Goldsmith, it's a must read, because it does really get you thinking. And there's certain things you want to keep. If it's working, you just want to be 1% better at. And then there's other things you got to say, look, you need a beginner's mindset. Let's start all over. How about leadership lessons? I mean, this podcast is all about leadership. We're a community. We're helping each other. Is there a leadership lesson, something maybe that's hung on your whole life, whether it started as a kid or something recently that's really helped you become the leader you are today?
Historically, I remember working on a house building project with guys of all different generations that were on that crew, and they were all working for, it was one job that they had, and they all worked a different job. The different job was with a guy who was older, had a string of franchises, and the one thing that they pointed out was, did you see the boss out there picking up trash in the parking lot? That has always been something that I have held on to. The thing that I learned here this morning when crashing one of the executive leadership sessions was that the number of stripes, in a military sense, the number of stripes on your arm means the quieter that you must communicate. More calm, more quieter. And I think that that's a really valuable thing because the communication is where we make all of our errors.
And that insight, I was in that room, and it's interesting. This is how humble this man is. He was the admiral for the Navy, reporting directly into George Sr. during Desert Storm. It's pretty remarkable man, right?
To be able to stand in the back of the room was pretty awesome.
It was a humbling moment. And so one of the guests that I had on the podcast, funny enough, spent his career at Disney, and he shared the obsession they had with picking up trash, because he said Walt Disney himself would know that if there's no bubble gum wrapper on the floor, then there's pride. And then so they would put garbage can, literally, like I think it was like every 12 feet. So it created culture. So it's interesting that's really stayed with you as well.
If you aren't willing to do the work yourself, then how in the world are you going to expect people to do it? It's just whatever the work is, attending these, standing on the expo floor, picking up the trash, cleaning out the garbage cans, whatever, doing the things that are the less desirable parts of all of these jobs. If you cannot credibly lead them, then you probably don't have any business being there.
Well, listen, Andrew, one of the questions I've been asking every guest on this podcast, and I love that you've got a golf shirt. So for my visual learners listening, because obviously this can only going to be a recording, I see be proud, be pro. So I love that on the front. If you only had one word on the back of your t-shirt, to describe you as a leader, doesn't mean you're that person every day, because obviously, we have better days than others. What word would you choose and why to describe your leadership?
Can I give a disclosure?
Yes,
I was standing outside, so I heard you ask your question.
So better be good.
So this is for those who have to follow. I got a cheat sheet.
All right.
I'd say it's probably agile.
Ooh, I love that.
Because, a former boss who was had a great career, was a mentor of mine. He always said in every situation, there's always an opening. There's always an opening, however brief, probably pretty brief, for you to make a pivot or a change. And if you don't capture it, you'll miss it. And so I think if you got to be agile, and I have always tried to look for that opportunity to make a pivot that's going to help create some kind of success.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for your time, some great insights. And in the spirit of agility, I think the industry here is going to have to be very agile, because there's a lot coming at us in a good way. Yeah. But if you don't move, you might get left behind.
Well, the remarkable impact of AI on all things is going to be a lot for us to sort of navigate around.
But with agility, we'll be just fine.
That's
so
right.
With that said, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
So you can hear the buzz here, Jillian.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
It's very cool. So listen, you've created a buzz because you've been referenced now a couple of times in the conversations I've had. And I love the toggle between, some people described it as IQ is going to be AI that propels it, and EQ, you better dial it up. So what do you do? What do you do?
Julian, my mission is to spread and enhance the emotional intelligence of our leaders worldwide. It is so needed in our world today. I started my career at Unilever back in, it doesn't matter how long, but in the sales and marketing division. And the leaders that had high emotional intelligence, I loved and learned from. And it's always about, you stay for your leader. And so those that had the high EQ was what inspired me to learn this language and to spread it to more people.
I love it. And listen, whether we use the word EI, EQ, does it matter to you?
It doesn't matter. No, emotional intelligence, EI. EQ is actually the measurement of emotional intelligence. So you have a score of EQ, but EI is the abbreviation of emotional intelligence.
And listen, you've decided to double down. You're leaning in. You're trying to impact as many leaders. Why do you believe that it's more important than ever, I guess, in this fourth industrial revolution that we're in, and AI obviously at the forefront of it? So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So emotional intelligence is our ability to understand, to share, to create strong relationships. And I love being here at IFDA. As I speak with everybody on the floor, this is a people business. This is a relationship business. And you can't build and bolster relationships without your emotional intelligence. And so in this rapid adoption of AI, my belief is we need our EI, our emotional intelligence, our EQ more than ever. People are feeling lonely. Their well-being is declining rapidly. 7 in 10 people are saying their well-being is low. 50% of managers are feeling burnt out right now. I mean, I could go on and on.
Those are big stats.
Huge stats. And so right now, there's a lot of fear around AI adoption. I just ran this session and asked the question. I like using the F word at work a lot. How do you feel? So I asked the audience, how do you feel? And so we talked about some of the positive emotions of AI adoption, and excitement and amazement were some of the words that came out of it. And then we talked about some of the other and more negative emotions, which was fear, anxiety, misunderstanding, or unclarity. I don't know if that's the word, but people don't have information and they're really curious. And so with their usage of emotional intelligence right now, I really feel that we need it more than ever to future-proof ourselves as leaders.
And listen, I think, again, I'm going to use the word AI because obviously it's not the flavor of the day or the flavor of the month. I mean, it's the flavor of kind of probably the next decade and so on as leaders. And it is a change leadership exercise, and it's hard. It's hard for most. So let's use EQ, EI to help us lead through this transitional period, because no different than the internet, it's just going to become a way of doing things. Where would one start? So I realize that, we could spend days here workshopping this, but where would one start if I say, I want to improve because I've received my results, because I know you're big on assessments.
Yeah.
Where would you start?
Yeah. Well, from a skill perspective of emotional intelligence, you can't regulate or manage what you don't have any awareness of. So you have to start with self-awareness. And self-awareness is absolutely the cornerstone for emotional intelligence. And as AI might be a productivity multiplier, your emotional awareness is your own tap in to understand where you're coming from, because you need to be able to manage a workforce that have so many emotions. So I love to call it practicing my emotional fitness. Every single morning I go out, I walk my dogs, I take stock of, okay, how am I feeling? There's great apps out there already. There's an app I use every day called How We Feel. You click it, it asks you, how do you feel? Are you energized and positive, or are you low energy and negative? And just gives you an understanding, because we need a vocabulary. This is a language, and we need the vocabulary to understand how we might solve for that negative emotion, stay in it for the moment, and how we might regulate it effectively so we can lead our teams effectively.
And, in the spirit of personality dimensions, DISC, obviously there's all these great assessments where we receive feedback. There's different personality types where EI or EQ could be perceived as, I'll use the word soft, which I'm sure you've heard, versus, if you're doing science and 1 + 1 is 2 or math. How do you help someone that's struggling? So I love the skill set of starting with self-awareness, but I realize your job is not to sell me that EQ is important, but how would you say, hey, Jillian, look, here's why I think you should lean into it as a leader of an organization?
So firstly, I love assessments because it's self-data and it gives you an understanding of yourself. So all the psychometric assessment tools that look at personality, that talks about why you are the way you are. And it helps you frame up communications. It helps you be able to flex your style to others. That doesn't change, really. What does change is your EQ. So your ability to grow and to understand and lead with empathy, to lead with adaptability, to be able to communicate, to have emotional resonance with others, that can grow over time. And it starts with awareness. You need to tap into that awareness and then understand the strategies to grow it, and then accountability. And that's why coaching is so effective in this business, because that continuous accountability.
What's interesting, as you get more familiar with the business here, because it's year 2 and I know you're loving it because I was able to chat with you in preparation, is that word accountability is a big word that I think all leaders hear. And I think there's a big difference between driving accountability, you've got the stick, or helping develop accountable leaders. And I think EQ, EI, is a way to develop that because it creates a common language. I'd love to hear one more thing on EI around what's the thing that excites you the most in this space? Like, is there some new research that's popped up? Is there something you're working on? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, Julian, we are in an emotional recession. And the data has come out.
That's good. Did you claim that? Because that's good.
I didn't claim it. No, it is good research.
That's
6 seconds. And Joshua Friedman, all of his work that his company does. And so as an applied researcher, really, of all the data, the world's EQ is declining by 6% over the last 5 years. You're like, oh, that's not much, 6%. It's a huge number. And in particular, empathy is declining. And our emotional expression is declining. And what's happening is a world with disruption, we need to build trusted teams more than ever. And to do that, we need vulnerability and we need openness and we need our emotional intelligence. And so to help our own well-being in our world right now, we need emotional intelligence to tap in. People stay because of the leaders they love. And usually those leaders tap in, they share, and they have a higher EQ.
Well, you use the word empathy, and it's interesting because 2 of the other guests that I interviewed, they use the word empathy. And we also talked about sometimes there's a gray line there with empathy, because if you show too much, you might, it might be hard to lead. So what's your thoughts around empathy? Because you just dropped the big E on me there.
The big E. Well, empathy, your ability to understand, put yourself into others' shoes and see it from their perspective. And Julian, I've assessed over probably 6,000 or 7,000 leaders in the last 10 years. I've had my leadership development company. And what's happening is what I'm seeing is the biggest leadership derailer is when people overuse their strengths. So if you're overusing empathy as an example, you care so deeply about others that you can't give them that radically candid feedback that they so desperately need. Or you take in all their emotions and you become the victim of their empathy. So every leader, as you go out and you're using your strengths to be your best, watch you don't overuse it. And so part of our work in emotional intelligence is to manage that and to help leaders be aware.
Fantastic. And listen, given that this is year 2, and I know we can hear the buzz behind us, is there one lesson learned for you? So might not be EQ, EI related, but what are you learning about this great industry? Obviously, work at Unilever, you were on that side, but now you're really getting a feel for this great community, the IFDA community.
The number one thing is that this is a relationship business. And I love that. And that's why emotional intelligence fits in so well. And I can see why people have some fear on AI adoption. So it won't take away those great relationships. In fact, it will hopefully become that productivity multiplier that gives you more time to develop and bolster those relationships.
I love it. And I can tell you, as I look at this, I think there's opportunities to form new relationships, and the quality of the relationships are going to matter more than ever, because we're going to need trust as we're going to share data and really lean into technology. And so coming back full circle is, I'm going to challenge all our listeners to really invest some time and dial up their EI and EQ. So thank you, Jillian.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jillian.
Hopefully you had a fantastic day here today.
I did.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, what you do, and why you love what you do. Because I can tell you love what you do.
My name is Gia Dowling. I am the Corporate Vice President of People and Culture. That's a nice way of saying human resources.
I love it.
At Nicholas & Company, we have headquarters in Salt Lake City, another distribution center in Vegas, and we basically operate from Montana down to Arizona. So all of the really big states that require a lot of windshield time.
Yes, a lot of
and
windshield
a lot of snow.
There you go. Well, as a fellow, so I'm Canadian. So as a fellow, someone that has to deal with cold weather, I get it.
You get it. Good.
I get it. So tell us a little bit about something, a special project, something you're working on that really excites you. You know, kind of like when you get up in the morning, like, I can't wait to tackle that thing once I've got, all the other things taken care of.
Well, I don't know if it is exciting. We are going through an ERP at the moment. It is all encompassing, as anyone who's gone through an ERP will tell you. It's like a colonoscopy without any of the really good meds that usually come along with them. But it also is an opportunity for us to upgrade our systems, as everyone does in an ERP, but also it comes at this really interesting time when AI is just starting to introduce some things into our business. And we can not only look at these new platforms, but we can look at how economies of scale are going to affect us really dramatically, because AI can do so many things now that we couldn't have done had we done the ERP 2 or 3 years ago. So that's the project I'm really looking forward to working on. It's not about trimming people. It's about how can we use these new platforms to really do our jobs faster and more efficiently and be more strategic, because now we'll have the thought space to do it.
And when you've got clean data, real-time data you trust, data will lead to insights to strategy, and then impact, right? You can help more people.
Yep.
And within this ERP implementation, is it your first, or you've done a few over the years, or?
I've done a few over the years at other companies. I've never done one at a food distribution company. And I will tell you, I've worked in a lot of industries. This one is very complicated. There's so many moving parts, and the ERP touches, we're going from feels like 800 systems down to 80. That's not an exact number, but it's complicated, as everyone in food distribution knows.
And having had lots of experience around ERPs as well, the one thing that I've learned from it is invest the time up front to really communicate the why we're doing this.
Yep.
Because a lot of times there's this a gotcha tool. Is there any learnings that you would share to yourself or your teams or even someone else that was going through it? Because I can guarantee your listeners, if they haven't gone through one, they're about to go through one.
The thing that I have been preaching since we started this 2 years ago was, this is not an IT project. This is not a technology project. This is a company project. Everybody, whether you're the CEO or the night custodian, we are all involved in launching this successfully, and we're all going to feel the impact, good or bad. So get in there, get your hands dirty, learn about how you can make this a successful project from your point in the company, but also that we're all a part of this together. And I will say the thing that we have done, and maybe this goes back to the interesting project as well, we really have invested in change management. We have put a lot of time and energy into change management. It's not been cheap and it's not been easy, but the effects are really now starting to be seen, because we put so much of ourselves into the training up front so that everyone knows going into it, there's going to be a valley of despair at a certain point, but we know how to navigate through those now. We aren't going to have a ton of, I wonder how I would do that, because we're hitting it before we even turn the switch on.
And look, I can tell you, and please challenge me on this, but words matter as a leader. And the way I position ERPs, it's an investment that we're making in this versus a cost. Because as soon as you go to cost, suddenly, for whatever reason, we go into a fixed mindset. We're protecting. We're a bit afraid that what's going to come out there. as I kind of put that on the table, any reactions to?
Oh, it's absolutely an investment. We are a family-owned company. This is an investment by the people who own the company. Financially, time-wise, it's an investment on behalf of the entire executive team. Financially and time-wise, we are invested in making this better because we know that this is what is going to get us to the next level next year and for the next 100 years.
And Gia, again, I'm very curious. Again, you can feel the buzz end of day. So there's people, relaxing a bit, making new friends. Is there an insight? Is there something today as you've been, meeting people, listening, a key takeaway from today?
Yeah, I've been coming to this for a few years now, and AI is definitely a much bigger player than it was, let's say, 5 years ago was COVID, 6 years ago. 4 years ago, it's so much, it's going so fast at how you can get these insights and get the data delivered to you in a really relevant way. Those autonomous pallet jacks are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I really found those pretty impressive. So what I really like is that for an industry like ours, where it does take a huge investment to totally redo your warehouse, we're constantly looking for new ways of doing things in our original space. And there's so much more out there now than there was even 2 or 3 years ago, where you can use the AI robots that can configure your space a little bit differently, and you don't have to rip the whole thing down.
There was a fun moment. I don't know if you were at the first session this morning where the gentleman talked about, he used Star Wars as an analogy. And I thought that was cute. He said, if you remember C-3PO in the first 3 seasons was always kind of
Clunky
and injured. So it'll be interesting where, yes, the robots are coming. And I think it's also going to create lots of new opportunities and skill set that's required but how do you fix those? How do you monitor those? So it's just interesting. It's just shift to work.
It's just a shift.
It's a
exactly a shift to work.
It's a shift to work. And I'd love to hear your thoughts around, given that this is a leadership podcast, is there any wisdom you've received over the years, something that maybe you've mentored people on that's really been important to you as a leader to make sure that you're always, the best leader that you can be
Yeah, that one of the best pieces of advice I got was, I don't have to know all the answers as a leader. I just have to create an environment that everyone that either works on my team or with my team knows that they're supported to help me find the answers or to help each other find the answers. So create a safe space where you can take some calculated risks and you can learn and grow and thrive together.
There's I'll use a buzzword here, but in our world, so I spent 5 years in HR as well, around the people side of things, is psychological safety. And ultimately, I think it's our job as leaders. If we say we want tech-forward leaders, or we want agility, or we want risk-taking, did we create the conditions in the environment for people to do that in a safe way? Yeah. And that they can show up and be their authentic self and challenge the status quo and not be reprimanded if they, come up with big ideas.
Right. And make a mistake.
And make a mistake, even more importantly. Yeah.
Calculated mistake.
Yeah.
But it is okay to make a mistake because that's how you learn.
Yeah. And I got to finish with a fun exercise. It's always fascinating to see. So if you had a t-shirt right now and it only had one word to describe your leadership style or who you are as a leader, I know that's a big question. What word would you choose and why?
Gosh, that is a big question.
Mm-hmm.
I would say generous. I try to be generous with my time, with my own skill set, with giving people the space to learn and grow. And generous with grace, in that I'm willing to give a lot of grace for learning and growing yourself.
Wow. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. And I love that word. So I've been asking all our guests. I've had similarities in some words. That's the first time I've heard the word generous, and how you've explained it. I might steal that shameless. I mean, lift and shift. I might start using that for me. I'm going to be as generous as I can with people.
I think the world would be a better place if we were all a little more generous.
I agree.
Time in ourselves.
I agree. So with that said, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your conference. And in many ways, this is a celebration of a great industry that we're part of. It's a way to connect, learn, and level up together as leaders.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gia. First of all, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Aaron Kirchhoff. Grew up, I guess you would say, our professional career grew up in the food service industry. Been known it since I was the ripe old age of 22 years old.
And you're 24 now?
No, 25. Thank you for your compliment. No,
For my listeners, if you could see him, the guy looks good.
More like 23 years of food service. So worked for a large corporation for a long time and did sales for a long time, and then was thrown into operations. Great opportunity to do that. And then now I'm the general manager at Cole Wholesale.
Very good.
Great.
Tell us a little bit. You've got a unique vantage point. So we're going to take a little bit of a different tack for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're part of the planning committee. I know you take great pride in it.
Yeah.
We're, for our listeners, we're winding down. Although there's still a buzz out there, there's still commerce being done, relationships being formed.
Yes.
How would you summarize a bit of the conference? Any key highlights for you, insights? Yeah, let's go there.
So I think any conference that you go to when it comes to IFDA and food service related is kind of unique. So if you took it from the perspective of an independent broadline food service distributor that doesn't have all of the educational opportunities that the large corporations have, there's a buzz still here, excuse me, but it's what you make of it. And it's how we go at each one of the vendors, friends that you make while you're here. So it's been instrumental in the networking and the education that I've gone through over the years, because the first time I was here, strangely enough, I was a younger person. I was actually on stage and I was scared out of my mind to be a presenter. And I was in a situation like this on stage. Somebody was asking me questions and I was so frightened, literally, because I'm walking around and there's vice presidents and presidents, which is what you have at these conferences. But the cool thing about the food service industry is, and this conference in general, is they want to talk to you. They want to help you. They want to.
It's almost like the titles don't matter. I mean,
don't.
I shouldn't say they don't matter, but it's human to human relationship. How can you help me learn something?
The industry's hospitality.
Yes.
And it's weird to think of it like that because,
right.
Well, is it really hospital? Yeah. Like last night at dinner, we were sitting with Mark Allen and Benny Keith and all the guys, the presidents of the companies. And it wasn't by design. It was by accident.
By accident.
The most normal human beings you've ever seen, because it's food that brings us all together.
You know what I love? I'm going to use the word abundance. I've shared this with another guest that I had is, yes, we want to win. And of course, you're representing your company and you want to get more business, more operators. But there is a mindset of abundance here, and together's better. And let's just keep making sure that, for instance, we heard some great speakers yesterday talk about policies from the IFDA team. So we really come together everybody wins.
Yeah.
All the way to the consumer, the people that are actually eating products in the restaurant.
Specifically, we're very purposeful in planning this event and any other events that IFDA does, and making sure you connect distributors like me to other distributors throughout the United States. Like I learned, I have a whole list of notes of things that I learned from would-be competitors if I was in their area, but they're not.
Right.
I even learned some stuff from perceived competitors.
It's like frenemies, that whole idea.
Well, it's the community, right?
Yeah.
So hey, I learned how to do this thing better. I'll help you with it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's also kind of a Midwest thing. There's a lot of Midwest distributors that have that friendly attitude.
Sure.
I'll help anybody.
Sure. Well, what's interesting is I'd love to play a bit because when I first met you, you were in a sales role.
Yeah.
Now you're more overseeing because you did ops.
Yeah.
And then kind of overseeing. So what advice would you have? Because that was a big switch. I remember seeing you and you're like, whoa, huge. But why was that a good thing? Because some of our listeners are looking to progress their careers within this great industry. So let's just talk about doing different roles and sometimes being outside your comfort zone.
So I guess our speaker this morning talked about living outside of your comfort zone, right? Always challenging yourself personally, professionally, spiritually, family, whatever, right? So never get comfortable. I have a weird brain that whenever I have a tendency to get comfortable, a little bit of that lazy human gene kicks in. So I've seen it a couple times throughout my career where, hey, I love this so much. And I get really excited. I'm kind of a high energy guy. Get really excited. And I did that for sales. And I get to the mountaintop and like, oh my gosh, I was really good at sales. And I was lucky and I was really good at sales. And
I wouldn't want to do business with you, Aaron.
And that's one of the things that I learned early on was, hey, let's be smiley, let's have a great attitude, but let's outwork everyone. But then, okay, I'm there, then I need to get uncomfortable. So once you get that, for me personally, that feeling of achievement, like, okay, what's the next thing? Some people can be comfortable in an environment where they get to their goal and they're like, okay, I win, and they just can stay there. I've been really lucky that I always forced myself to get uncomfortable. I didn't know that in the beginning though, because I was unhappy. So my unhappiness led me to be uncomfortable, which led me to make a change. Wasn't anything that I was doing wrong or my company was doing wrong, but it was actually just me, because I was successful, doing a great job, but I didn't know what was next. So I didn't realize at the time that I had to have the challenge in my life. So yeah, for sure, went from company A to company where I'm at now with Wholesale. I love them to pieces. Been there for
It's a
10 years.
great company. I was fortunate to spend some, I mean, it's unbelievable.
We were fortunate to have you.
Oh, there you go. No, but if you think about it, Aaron, is they've allowed you to also take some calculated risks.
Huge.
Because they could have hired someone that had more experience. I'm just picking an operation, but they were thinking big picture. If we give you that experience, we eventually can serve our customers better and have more impact and all the good stuff.
I accidentally was uncomfortable when I left the first time with the larger corporation. And then I was forced to be uncomfortable the second time because they said, hey, you're going to be the director of sales. And I was 32 years old.
A young puppy.
Oh my gosh. I was a baby for sure. And then the third time was a need of uncomfortable, where we were having some struggles operationally as a company. And they said, hey, we think you can do this.
They trust you. They saw your work ethic, how you built relationships. I'm going to share something that I think you'll appreciate. When I was a tennis coach, prior to getting in the food business, I was living in Florida because that's the tennis hotbed. And the director of academy said, Julian, you have one responsibility here as a tennis coach to these future potential, world champions. Make sure they're 20% outside their comfort zone at all times. Not 19, not 21. Because at 21, you overstretch them, you lose them. It's a hypothetical number. But I love that you put yourself outside your comfort zone. And they probably knew it wasn't 30 or 40. Because you knew the culture, you knew the company, you knew you had good people that you could lean on in areas you didn't.
Sometimes it was 90.
I'm sure there was. Yeah.
That ebbs and flows, right? Sure. I think, but having that understanding later in my career to go back and go, what would I have done differently, like as a high school student? What would I have done differently as a college student? Of course, retrospect, hindsight's 20 all the time. But I think understanding earlier on that being uncomfortable is okay. Yeah, because I see it in my kiddos now, right? And you see it in your
How old are your kids now, Aaron?
19, 14, and 11.
Okay, so you're seeing it.
That formative years of a teenager to go, it's okay to be confident, because that's where you're confused about everything at that age in your life. But knowing that you can operate in that, and that's where you learn, and that's where you grow, and that's where you get bigger, better, stronger. It would be very powerful to learn that at an early age. Wish I had it, but
Well, look, I also think that you need to go through the various phases of life. One of the guys that works for me, Ed, he loves to say, how does he say this? Is your ego is not your amigo. And as we're younger, our ego is going to be bigger because we think the whole world is watching. And as we get more, I'm not going to say older, but more experienced, what we realize is it's okay not to have all the answers. As a matter of fact, I think you're more efficient as a leader when you just ask questions without having the answer.
It makes you more approachable. It makes you have better relationships with the teammates, because you're right. I mean, who wants to deal with a person who's like, oh, no, you do it this way, and this is how you handle this? It's like, no, I don't exactly know how to do that. Let's learn it together. That way I benefit, my teammate benefits, but as an organization, we benefit even better because we're learning together and having a better relationship. I totally agree with you. I wish I had more teammates that would ask me more questions.
Right.
Because it's not an ego thing that you got to I know so much stuff. No, I've just been lucky, like you said, that I've been through the trenches. I've made the mistakes. And I think as a younger person, I was really lucky because I was always had this weird, curious nature of, how does that
right? You're that kid.
How are they so good at that? And it was almost an imposter theory thing. Yeah. So for me, that was a big deal. So for any of the younger folks that are earlier in their career, ask those questions. It doesn't hurt. And really, one of my favorite books that's out there, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love it to pieces. It's my favorite. It's the first one I read that kind of changed my mental game. It also has a dual purpose. You learn as a person who's talking to them, but also the person that you're asking those questions to is like, wow, you view me as an aficionado.
You know what's interesting is How to Win Friends and Influence People. What's old is new again. So here we are at the conference, and I think there's a theme around, obviously, people. That's always going to be there. We're in a relationship business, but there's a massive theme around technology and change. And what I've been recommending to people is the classics are classic for a reason.
Yes.
Like Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Those things don't change.
They don't change.
Especially in this industry. I mean, this is it's hospitality. You go to a restaurant, you go to a hotel, you go to a hospital, and people are literally feeding you giving you nutrients, right? And they don't do it through a robot, generally speaking. It's through someone else serving you. So the power of being able to have, I guess, those relationships is just, it's so impactful in this industry, but in others. But it's funny. I was just talking to somebody in one of my presentations. I made a little bit of a faux pas, and I kind of gave AI a little bit of a dig, right? Because I believe in it 110%.
Oh, and I know you do. I've seen you use it.
But it's also, it's not everything. It's go back when the car was invented, when the automatic transmissions and trucks were, that's going to solve everything. Nothing really ever solves everything. It comes down to human interactions and how you can influence or make that connection with other people around you. And it's everything that we do. I often get told like, well, you're just, I'm at my church and people are like, well, you're just selling me on. I'm like, no, I'm just talking the way that I usually do. I might be trying to be a little influential, but it's not selling. It's just helping people understand.
Speaking of books, I mean, this podcast was created so we can share leadership insights.
Yeah.
There's a great book if you haven't read it, or if you're ever looking to gift a book for someone that's not in sales. It's called To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. It is one of my favorite books because what he says is it's not the best idea or solution that gets funded, that gets through in an organization. It's the person that tells the best story. And we all sell. Call it influence, call it impact.
Yeah.
The skill set is the same. So it's just interesting because I think a lot of people, the word sales sometimes gets a bad connotation because we think of some of the professions where it's like 100% commission and they're just like coming at you hard.
One time, twice a lifetime sales. It feels a little not great. How many, just curiosity, I'm a big fan of reading. Like, I wish you could do it more. How many books are you reading like right now?
So I can say this and it won't be braggy because of how it started. This is hilarious. So in 2004, I become a general manager of a business. And I read this article that says that the average president, CEO, general manager reads a book a week. So I'm thinking because it was 4 to 5 a month. So I'm thinking I'm a general manager. I need to start reading. So I'm reading. About 2 years in this journey, I'm averaging, like, I think I did 60 books in year 1, 52 in year 2. No, it was wild. It was wild, Eric.
Awesome.
And then I read this article that it was basically a fake article that was created for like Goodreads or one of those
for the
companies.
Book industry to sell more books.
And you know what's funny? I got hooked on it.
Yeah.
I developed a habit. So I read at least 20 minutes a day, if not 30 or 40. So if you do the math, it compounds.
Yeah.
And I can tell you because we track this as a team. So I'm going to be releasing my first book soon. And I'm at 1,372, I guess, when I finish this book this week, of books read on the science of success. So I love history, leadership. That's why I could talk books all day. That's how I get my recommendations.
Because where else are you going to get it from?
Yeah.
Right? It's a completely different perspective. Sometimes I assume you read things that maybe you might not even be interested in.
Totally.
Just to gain that perspective. It's one of the things that I asked you. You told me when I first met you a long time ago was kind of this book story. It's the reason why I asked. And I am so deficient in it. And I think most people are because we get distracted by everything else around us all the time. That 20 minutes a day, like some people like to work out, right? You like to run and do all the active things that you do. That strength conditioning physically for your body is equally as important as the brain education. So like we talked early on, like what did some of the things that impacted your career? Like that part of it, I fell into on accident just because I was kind of interested in things, but people like you helped influence me years and years ago. You need to double down on this because that's what keeps us active.
And you know what I tell people is, look, micro habits. If someone said, look, I don't read and I probably should, do 10 minutes a day. Do the math. That's a book a month or every 5 or 6 weeks. At the end of the year, and by the way, what we know is the research shows, I think the average American, Canadian, it's something like not even a book a year. So if you even read 2, in theory, and I'm not saying it's the only way to get knowledge. You can get it through podcasts. You can get it through, watching stuff, listening. There's a million. There's something still classic about what's old is new again, and it's reading a book, isn't it?
I mean, think of all the studies that we see out there about what our lovely little devices that are always attached to our faces do to us. Like that.
I know.
That's not a great thing.
No.
And if we can replace that with the old-fashioned stuff, I agree. What's old is new. I love it.
What's old is, I think that's a great way to finish. So what we're saying is let's lean into technology. We're all there.
Yes.
And let's get so good at the fundamentals, relationship building, leading, listening,
following up, following through, having a nice smile
and
with someone in a conversation. It's impactful for a lifetime.
That's how you separate yourself. Listen, I always love my time with you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know our listeners are going to enjoy a few of these insights.
Yeah.
So look forward to our next conversation, my friend.
Thank you, Julian.
All right.
Good seeing you, man.
Cheers. Last podcast of the day. I guess we've saved the best for last.
That's great. I appreciate having me.
Well, so listen, I wish our audience, because this is being recorded audio, not video, could see your energy, your passion as you sit here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what do you love about what you do?
Yeah, so Rob Olsch, VP of Distributor and National Fleet Sales for Great Dane, handle all of our independent distribution network through U.S., Canada, Mexico, and some South American countries. Also lead our national account team as well. Right. So what I love about what I do, I've been in sales my whole life. I love customers. I love building relationships and love just solving people's problems.
Well, listen, I wish people could, I mean, you can kind of hear the buzz, but I mean, we're in a day and there's still commerce being done here. So maybe share some reflection of, obviously you've attended a lot of conferences. So what did you get out of this conference? Any advice for people that are maybe newer going to conferences? Because I've interviewed a few people. This is their first time at an IFDA event. So so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I love IFDA because it's very pointed. We've got our segmentation for this customer base is special. It's one of our core competencies at Great Dane. So coming here is like seeing friends. And the cool thing about the last couple of days is I saw a lot of young people coming into the business.
There's new energy.
There's a lot of new energy. And the big thing is I saw a bunch of smiles, people coming up, looking at our equipment, kind of looking at what we're doing, talking about the future, data, artificial intelligence, all the things that are happening out there. There's an excitement around transportation in general.
Well, actually, let's play off of that because obviously there is a theme. We mentioned relationship, people, technology. I mean, it's going to be an exciting time here, especially for people that lean in and really lean into some of your solutions. And is there something in particular that you or your team are working on that really has you excited, fired up because you see what it's going to be able to do for your current clients and future clients?
Couple of things. First, electrification, right? So that's a very integral part of, I think, where the direction of refrigeration in general goes, especially in the transport space. So, we have a lot of things going on in that space with strategic partnerships, things we're doing to incubate on our own. But I think the sky's the limit as to where we end up there operationally. The group that comes to IFDA is really focused on that because everybody kind of does things a little bit different. I don't know if electrification will end up being a one-size-fits-all. So for us as manufacturers, we want to stay versatile.
Right.
We want to stay engaged and we want to try to figure it out together because, we don't work every day in the streets like a lot of these folks do. So that would be the first thing. And then the second thing is the data and telematics piece. So for the audience that's familiar or not familiar, Great Dane brought a product to market a few years ago called Fleet Pulse.
Okay.
And that was a backbone that we've now made standard on our equipment, which is an exciting piece. You get a base model right out of the box, no pun intended.
I love because that's commitment. That shows that you believe that that's the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we saw the potential for that product. And honestly, keeping it just in the Great Dane purview didn't let it expand and really go to other manufacturers and do what the customer wanted, which is something that can go across their whole fleet, no matter where they end up or who they decide to buy trailers from. So Fleet Pulse is now on its own, and it's doing a fantastic job. And lots and lots of conversations with fleets around the potential for that. So data and telematics is going to be a big thing.
That's cool. And realizing that, you were here for probably a couple of reasons. You're here to build relationships. You're here to learn what else is happening in the industry. Any questions that you've been getting, you and your team? Like what's the dialogue, I guess? People are stopping by. I mean, obviously I could see it was quite busy. So tell me, what kind of questions are you getting?
Yeah, that's a great one. There's been a lot of good conversation. We always say if there's a quality show for us because people are here really hunting for answers and solutions to what's going on.
They're here with purpose. Is that
they
fair?
Absolutely are. I would say that's a great way to sum it up. Yeah. The biggest question is what's going to happen? Yeah. Where are we at in this world?
I love that. The what's next.
Can I see around any corners? Do I have the answers to the test? I'm sitting here and saying no, but we're all trying to figure it out, trying to really piece the data together to say, hey, when is this whole thing going to turn? When are we going to feel normal again? We've had the craziness of COVID. We come out of there. Then you start to introduce, you think it's getting a little better, and then tariffs show up.
Right.
So I think, I feel a lot of people are here just trying to seek to understand what's next. And we always need to figure that out. But today, I think it's a more important conversation around trying to say, hey, how do I plan my business? How do I lean into and have the right supply partners? How do I keep my employees happy? Just trying to be better business people, I think, in general. So,
and it's interesting. I was having a great chat as I was walking the floor, and I asked someone, what do you get out of this conference? And I love what he said. He said, it helps me reframe some of my questions as I look at my business, whether it's people, whether it's technology, whether it's logistics, whether it's, because I've had conversations ranging from ERP to transportation to people to AI, you can imagine, and to tariffs. Obviously, that's a big one because that's an unknown. No one knows where it's going.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to talk leadership for a second. So the reason this podcast became a thing is we said, man, we have all these great leaders like yourself in the industry. We have this new generation of leaders that's coming up. And sometimes there's things that you still have to learn by experience, but you wish that you would have known when you were earlier in your career. So let's talk leadership lessons, wisdom.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to go there. Right now, so for me, I recognize coming out of COVID that the world was fundamentally going to be different. The challenges that we were faced with. There's a great book called The Black Swan. If you ever
great book, yes.
Things you never ever would think would come to life sometimes. Yes. And so for me personally, I went back to school. I went back, got my MBA.
Are you serious?
I did.
Wow.
Because I thought, you know what? I need to find out.
And for our listeners, sorry, how old were you when you started the MBA?
I was 49 years old.
That's what you call growth mindset, my friend.
Yeah. And so I said, I just need to know. I need to plug myself back in. I need to build my network deeper, diversify my network. And the cool thing was AI was just really becoming a buzzword when we started. And to the credit of my alma mater, which is UGA, University of Georgia.
There's the plug. There's the plug. Go Bulldogs.
Yeah. So we, our professors and our educators pushed us into it. They made us use it. We had to document what we were doing. We had to do that stuff. So, but it was just a cool thing to go through that entire executive course, having AI at the forefront. And two things that I learned out of there is control the controllables.
Yep.
And pay attention to the details. Everybody knows, and everybody who's leaning into AI know, if you don't prompt it correctly, you don't, the output.
It's like garbage in, garbage. Garbage in, garbage out.
So to me, it was like, let's keep it simple. When I was younger and I was in sales and beating the streets and doing those things, man, I made it way more complex than I needed to. There's simple blocking and tackling that, especially in times of uncertainty, are so important to just do the things you can do, control the things you can control, and pay attention to the details, because a missed detail can cost you a lot of money or cost your customer a lot of money. So just keep it simple. That's nothing earth-shattering.
No, but it is a good reminder for all of us. Control the controllables. For instance, we can't control the tariffs. We can control how we play with the tariffs. And guess what? Someone's going to win. Someone still needs your solution.
Absolutely. And listen, it makes you better. You focus on your efficiencies. You focus on how you're doing things, your processes, all that stuff. You can control all that. You can be better. You can offset some costs. You can get very creative if you just pay attention to the details and control what you can control.
So let's go a bit deeper here. So you go back to school. That's amazing. MBA 49, never too late to learn. I'm sure you've heard stories of an 80-year-old going back and getting a degree, right? Like it's really, I don't know why we put a cap.
I'll take it even deeper. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So I've kind of been joking the last couple of years. I'm living life backwards.
I love it. Isn't that Benjamin Button, or wasn't there a movie?
Yeah. But it was, listen, we all get what we got here on Earth. And I just think, keeping it simple, doing the things you can control.
That was a good inspiration for anybody listening. There's a kick in the pants, right? So if you're questioning it, and I think you have to view these as an investment versus a cost, because some people are like, well, I'm not going back to school because it's going to cost me. No. It's going to invest so you can have a great next 10 years, 20 years.
Absolutely. And honestly, I mentioned the network earlier. When tariffs hit, I had friends and colleagues that I made in my program. I called them up and said, how are you dealing with it? What are you guys seeing?
The power of a network.
It was unbelievable. That's another thing that I would say from a leadership perspective. You never know who can help you at any given time in the future. And a handshake could last a lifetime.
A handshake can last a lifetime. I love it. Is there I'm always fascinated with leadership lessons, and it could have been a coach, a mentor. I mean, it could have been someone that, I don't know, a teacher in grade 5, right? Is there a piece of wisdom that has really shaped who you are as a leader? So forget the MBA for a second. Forget even what you've learned necessarily, in the food business and distribution.
Yeah. So, I won't, this is not patting my boss on the back, and I'm not playing up to him, but my current boss, Chris Hammond.
We'll make sure that Chris hears this.
Yeah. Chris Hammond, EVP of sales for Great Dane. I took the role that he had when he got promoted, and in some of our early on conversations when I knew that the role was mine to accept, Chris said some magic words to me. He said, "Challenge everything I did."
Wow. First of all, think about how secure he would have been in his own skin as a leader.
Yes.
I don't want to meet this man because that's
I'd love to introduce you to
challenge
him.
everything.
Everything I did.
Because there's probably a better way.
Yeah. And over the years, we've joked about things that have come up and things that we've done and things that we've pivoted from. And it's been a remarkable set of advice for me. And I've had many mentors and many people in my life, but that moment in time was special because he had big shoes, and I was stepping into those shoes, and he had my back, and still does to this day.
And what's amazing is I bet if I ask your team, you've probably, without realizing, or you've done it, is you're probably hoping for the same thing and created the conditions and the environment for that to happen.
Absolutely. I embrace that.
Wow.
I want the same for my team. Nobody has a monopoly on good answers to questions. So if you can empower your team to have that, and the president of our company, Rick Molnix, has been really good about our culture of psychological safety. And
I hear your culture. I keep hearing how good your culture is.
And having people just have that safety factor to say, look, this is great. Let me challenge this. Let me see where this takes us.
And I love, look, buzzwords become buzzwords for a reason. But psychological safety, I was going down the rabbit hole the other day and really came out of Google. Do you know because I wasn't sure, because they studied like high performance teams, and why were some teams, because they all had the EQ was off the chart.
Right.
Even the IQ was off the chart. The EQ was still off the chart. And yet there was teams and it was really this notion of allow people to be the best version of themselves, to challenge the status quo, to challenge everything, I guess.
There we go. Right back to
without having repercussion that you're going to lose your job.
No, let's figure out how to be better. And again, you don't know where it will take you, but embrace it.
So I'm going to finish with a hard hitting question.
Okay.
You've got 2 young kids.
I do.
Because they're going to be proud of dad when they figure out what dad does one day.
Yeah.
Right. If you had a t-shirt and you could only have one word to describe who you're trying to be as a leader, it doesn't mean you're that person every day, because obviously it's hard, but like, what's the word that you would hope that people would say about you? And more importantly, that your 2 kids would say, Dad is a great leader because Dad does this. What is that thing? That's a big question.
I am humble.
Ooh, you did not hesitate on that.
I am humble. And that's an important word to me, because in what we do and how we do it, we've got to have a level of confidence, and you got to have that to lead, but to do it and be humble at the same time, because it's important to again create some of that psychological safety and understand I'm not the best version of me sitting here right now, but I'm going to work towards it a minute from now and a week from now and a year from now and all that. But if I had to put one word on a t-shirt for my kids to walk around with, and I would hope that they would become the same, I would put humble in all caps.
In all caps. I love it. What? Well, listen, I can tell you this. I've never met a leader that's humble, that's open to be challenged, like what you've learned and what you're doing for your team. That's not a great leader. And your kids are going to see that in even how you parent them. Because
hopefully they'll listen to this.
Yeah, they will listen. No, let's not stress this too far.
Yeah.
Right? They will one day.
Yeah.
How funny is that, huh? The time capsule. One day they'll listen. Like, wow, Dad was so cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
At this point, when they listen, I don't know, they'll probably be like, let's call it 15, 16. So you'll be probably at the end of the career.
Exactly. Who knows?
Yeah.
I won't. Hey, God willing, I'll play this game forever. I enjoy
that's what I say. I mean, we're very fortunate. It's a great industry. Congrats on the success that you're having in your leadership journey.
Yeah, thank you.
The impact you're having. And with that said, I'm going to say it. Go get them, my friend.
Thank you. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. There you go. Here we are, podcast number 4, live and unplugged, Crave, the IFDA Podcast from Columbus. Man, this has been a cool setting.
Very cool. It's I wasn't ready for the soundproof booth, but pretty nice.
Not bad. The only thing someone said, there should be money shooting out from it.
Well, I'll take that.
So Dallas, tell us about yourself, what you do, what you love about what you do, and then we'll have a good leadership conversation here.
Yeah, so I'm a co-founder of Sky Sheep. I've got my hands in every aspect of the company. My background traverses marketing, sales, operations, and delivery. So I've literally run the full spectrum, and here I do the same. What I'm passionate about is just, we are an advanced analytics, AI machine learning driven company. And what we really specialize in is price optimization for food service. And it's really that practical application of that artificial intelligence and machine learning. Oftentimes, especially with ChatGPT and some of these generative applications that are growing stronger by the day, and very useful for certain aspects of your business, you get kind of lost into what can be practically applied to your operations, right? For example, most of our customers who need pricing have these legacy ERPs or multiple systems, right? They've got their sales order entry, they've got digital ordering platforms that they've subscribed to or built, and being able to generate insights that kind of span their business, but then push a prescriptive price that they should be leveraging, right? Based on all that data. They don't want to be asking questions. They need that price to appear in that box so that their salespeople can be more efficient and effective and do their job. But yeah, that practical aspect of
I love the word practical,
insights.
because you're right. I mean, it is exciting. And I mean, we're throwing around the word AI, like if everybody knows what it is. It's kind of funny. I'm sure you're laughing as someone that's obviously, in the space. Yeah. And within pricing, pre-AI, describe the journey, because it's good to remind our listeners that, look, like pricing is not easy, because to your point, you got legacy systems, you got Band-Aids all over the place. Nothing's talking to each other. So tell us, what did the world look like before AI, and now AI, maybe in a nutshell, what's it doing? Like, what's it doing for people?
Great question. I would say the world before AI, if you asked a large percentage of distributors, especially those listening, they probably still live it today. But
so it's still present, unfortunately.
It's still very prevalent, and it's understandable, right? So one of the most delicate things, pricing is one of the most powerful things. It can help you generate margin. It can help you generate additional sales, right? If you price to be really competitive and enter new items or new markets. So it's super powerful. But on the same token, you can lose customers and risk churn. You can lose salespeople if you don't incentivize them the right way, right? So there's all these residual effects. Like pricing is one of the few things that has tentacles into every aspect of your organization, and it virtually has to be perfect, or you risk really frustrating some critical constituent of your business, right? It could be finance, who really wants margin. It could be sales, who really wants both margin and that volume growth. It could be purchasing, who's dealing with all these crazy cost fluctuations, or your IT team, right? And then most importantly, it could be your customers, right? Which is so delicate.
Well, as you remember in business school, one of the 4 Ps is price.
Yeah. To me, there is no most critical, but I would say it is definitely the most delicate. And that's where it goes back to. So to answer your first question, I apologize for rambling a bit.
No, this is good. It's conversation.
But again, it's got those tentacles into every piece of the business. And today, typically what we see is, the purchasing team is ordering and trying to meet demand, and they're setting costs and trying to track the market as best they can manually. And then the sales team is getting some either cost plus price or some type of suggested tiered, whether it's, zones or some other hierarchy that they use, but they're getting those core prices. And then they do a lot of manual things on top of that to try to account for all these unique things. How much does this customer buy? It's just jumped up. Am I going to shock them if I leave this margin rate intact? Do I need to lower it? Cost just decreased. Can I get a little bit more here? They're looking at, okay, this customer buys a ton of product X, but not a ton of product Y. So they're looking at all these different things, and there's no way. If you've got dozens of clients and you've got hundreds of items that they buy, you can do that math. It's impossible for a human to manage that effectively. And that's what happens today is, you talk about the rule of 10, right? They focus on their top 10%, and the rest is kind of either what's in place or some guesswork. And so what systems like ours do is apply the same amount of rigor, leveraging all this data to every single intersection of customer and item, right? So whether it's your top item in a key account or the 356th item that they order once a month or some seasonal item that they order a couple times a year, how do you make sure that all of those are priced as if you took your best analyst and your best salesperson together and had them focus on it for 20 minutes, right? That's what a system like this does.
That's what it does. And would you say, do you have examples of a case study without naming, obviously, your partner to say, look, Jules, they started, here's where they were, they worked with us, and, we're a couple of months in, and here's what's happened?
Yeah, I mean, I could think of one protein distributor that we work with in particular. I'd say it's a large multi-billion-dollar distributor, heavily focused in proteins. And so you can think about what that market is doing right now, right?
Every penny matters. So you better have systems in place.
Rounded pennies matter, right? When you're on weight base like that, right? So they've got tons of cost, tons of complexity. You've got beef running to areas that we've never seen before. And it's just impossible to manage that yourself amongst the competition in your markets, right? The distributors who are looking for share. So we came in with them. And another big thing they had, and this is really, really important, I don't want to overlook this, is when you have a manual pricing process, it's not always whether you can generate more volume or more margin. One of the things they struggled with is their reps did not have a ton of confidence in the pricing that was being spit out. So what do you do when you're not confident? You go to the lowest place you can go to make sure you win, right? Because we just said what the cardinal sin is, which is to lose business, right? So if I could maybe eke out another point here or another half a penny, or risk losing the account, or if I want to move very quickly and I've got a hotkey to this kind of lowest possible price, I'm going to leverage that hotkey, make my customer happy, and keep on going. But I also have to spend time manually doing that. So as we built their confidence, so in a 3-month span, we were able to roll out in a phased manner across several regions and warehouses. I don't want to get too specific, but they saw 20%, meaning net percent, not hard dollars, growth in margin per case. They saw 200 basis points improvement, sustain on a monthly level. They've seen a 30% increase in new items because we also do these product recommendations. But I think the piece that we're most proud of is their rep confidence. That 70% of reps said today they spend less time pricing than they did previously. And if you've ever dealt with salespeople and DSRs, one, they don't like to give up control of anything, and two, they don't love new technology. And one of the beauties of this system is we integrate directly with the existing order entry or ERP platform they have. So the only thing they had to do was learn to trust the smarter number in the box. We took a little bit of noise. They had multiple zones to choose from. We just gave them a recommended and a target and a floor. So we decreased the amount of stuff that they have to see. and it saved them a ton of time and made them more. And, as the system has been in place now for 4 months, the actual margin dollar lift is off the chart. What comes with that is, we expect to see that 30% who have not trusted and are still doing it the way they used to, as they see their peers outperforming them, they're going to continue to gradually move towards that. And we're seeing that already. So huge
Well,
win.
I'll tell you, Dallas, that was unexpected in terms of the answer. And I absolutely love it because I was expecting, obviously, dollars in the bank. That's great because obviously you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be, doubling down on what you do.
Yeah.
But that confidence one is a huge one. And that's going to be probably hard to measure. But leaders that get it. Because if you have a DSR and a DSM that's confident in their pricing, they're going to be more aggressive in terms of consultancy, bringing new products. They're not going to leave. They're going to stay with the company. I bet you could probably track companies that have lost people because if I'm building a relationship with you and you're an operator and my pricing is, I'm not going to stay because I don't want to embarrass myself. So there's a million other factors as you build your case studies that are going to come into play.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, because I kind of glossed over it, but I think what you just hit on is really, really important. With that confidence, when a rep spends 70% less of their time, or I'm sorry, 70% was the number of reps. It was a 66% reduction in their time on pricing. If they spend that much less time pricing, what are they doing? To your point, meeting with customers, expanding product in their accounts, maybe taking a rest, right? Who knows? But whatever they're doing, they're not doing something that is both tedious and something that they know at their core, they don't understand it, right? When we present how the system makes these decisions and how it includes everything that they try to account for and a little bit more, but at scale, they immediately get it, right? These people are not, they're not slow. They're really, really bright and they're really, really good at what they do. So once they trust it, yes, their performance goes up, your footprint in accounts goes up, your retention goes up, like you alluded to. Huge win.
And let's be honest, I'm going to generalize here. I think we can agree is typically sales reps don't want to get bogged down in minutia. They like growing a business.
Yes.
They like taking calculated risk. I can tell you as someone that's been that rep, man, the pricing game, that crushes your mojo.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're embarrassed to put anything new because you know exactly what the customer is. Are you going to screw me on this one and we're going to lose money and we're going to have to do go back a year and accrue and all this stuff that goes sideways.
Right. And then what's the worst thing as a salesperson? Credits, right?
Yeah,
you don't want to deal with that type of stuff.
No.
So and you can be
awesome.
confident that you're aligned, even again, going back to new product, because it's not just that they have time, but when they can present a price that they're confident in for a new item that customer isn't buying, right? Now you don't have to worry about embarrassing yourself and being out of alignment with the market. It's really, really cool. We get so much more excited about that.
And how many years are you in now in this journey?
So we've been in business for 4 years.
4 years.
So still very early.
Yeah.
We work exclusively with food service distributors, which gives us, a huge leg up in terms of how the models are built. Very, very turnkey.
Very surgical focus.
Very surgically focused. Our typical implementation is 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
Typically closer to really 2 to 3. So I say 3 to 4 to not scare people because the speed can scare people. When you're putting the answers back into systems that the reps are comfortable with, you remove that change management barrier. And I can't talk enough about the when they are confident and deferential, their performance goes through the roof. And then so does the organization's. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
And first of all, congrats. It's a great story. And I can tell that it's going to keep getting better by the day because you're in an amazing industry as you're experiencing here.
Yep.
I'd love to get a final thought around leadership. So you mentioned the word confidence. I'm obsessed with confidence because I believe that you make a choice. I want to be confident and you reverse engineer it. What do you need to be confident? So you need good teams, you need systems, you need to practice, you need mentor lesson. Is there something that it could be a recent leadership lesson? It could have been when you're in grade 7. I don't know, you had a great football coach or baseball coach or whatever. Is there something you'd share with our listeners, a leadership lesson that's really marked you, that shaped who you are and what you do here today? I mean, good question.
Yes, it's so tough because obviously, things that really shaped me. Going back to coaches, like you said, as a kid and even close family, parents, I would say honesty, integrity are really, really kind of core traits that we look for when we hire anybody. So no matter the department, there are core traits that we look for.
Non-negotiable. If we don't have that, I don't care how smart you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Character traits. To really hit on, I think one thing that's been the most valuable for me as a leader is I was told by a mentor of mine, I think 5 years ago now. So even before we started this journey, as an executive, I was just looking for better ways to help my team members grow. He said one of the most important things you can do is coach without criticizing. So can you offer constructive actions?
I love that.
Without
coaching
complaining.
Without criticizing.
Correct.
Because without realizing it, we go into it with a bit of battle energy.
Yep.
You didn't do it my way, or you didn't get the result. But I like that. Coaching without, and the person can feel that.
Yeah. And to give you an example, we had a person on our team a couple years ago, and he's continued to grow, but starting out and very honest, right? Had all the core traits, but had a slight penchant to interrupt people while they were talking.
Okay.
Right. And you could complain and say, oh, God, why does this person always interrupt? Right. But that's not going to help him. Hey, you're interrupting people. You need to stop. That's not constructive. Right. That's a complaint. It gets filed. It gets ignored. But you go to him and you say, hey, sometimes you got to let people finish their thought for a couple reasons. One, sometimes when you interrupt folks, they kind of forget what they were planning to say and it kind of throws them off. But also they might get to where you're interjecting to go. So obviously you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to stop interjecting overnight, but just be thoughtful about it. Try to let people finish their thought, round it home, and then you can jump in. And the difference in his behavior, right, pre and post that conversation has been staggering, right? Staggering. So
I think that is such great advice for everybody listening is, are you coaching without criticizing? Another way to put it is, I don't know if you got into the whole Ted Lasso thing, but I got sucked into it. And there was a great quote in it, be curious, not judgmental.
Yes.
So if I'm in a conversation, let me just understand why you think that.
Yeah.
Versus, putting a stake in the ground, I don't know, that's not how we do things here. Well, maybe there's a better way.
Correct.
Maybe there's a better way.
Correct. And it goes back, curiosity is a piece of that, right? Because some of the reasons, I'm going to carry forward the interjecting thing because I used to be guilty of it too, right? Before
guilty charge as well.
Yeah,
it's
right?
hard, man.
And part of me is I get excited,
Same.
but I am a naturally, analytical person. And it's like, I'm thinking about solutions as people talk. And that's really not how it should go, right? You should be curious enough to sit back, listen, hear that fully formed thought, collect, and then provide that feedback. So yeah, I like that as well, right? Being curious, for sure.
Well, listen, two things. I love your passion.
Yeah,
I love your energy. It's clear you're doing something that's having impact. And I think it's going to be a rocket ship because you're in the right space. We can all benefit from your offering, your solution.
Yep.
And thanks for sharing some leadership insights.
Really appreciate the time. And yeah, we're growing very steadily. It's exciting. Solutions has been a great piece of that I think we've been sponsors the past 3 years now.
Good for you.
And it's been very fruitful working with this space. We work exclusively in this space, so we love it. And very nice meeting you, Julia.
Cool. You can feel the energy here, so I'm going to let you get back at him.
Yeah.
So go get him, my man.
All right.
Cheers,
Thank
Dallas. Here we go. Day 2, live and unplugged, Crave Podcasts. I'm here with John Birdwell. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
John Birdwell, Benny Keith Foodservice. I'm the director of warehouse operations across the country.
Very good. So that's a hobby. It doesn't sound like a full-time job.
Well, we like to travel.
There you go.
We're into travel.
There you go. So tell me a little bit about, I've had the fortune of working with you before a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what is it that you love still today? Because you've been in this business for a while. What's the thing that still gets you going, John?
I've been in this business 37 years from seed to tree, so to say. So basically in all the sessions that I've even been in this year and last, it all comes down to the people. And how we're developing people, or today's coming out of COVID is, are we developing people?
And I'll tell you, it's interesting because obviously there's a theme around technology. You can hear the buzz here. We're talking robotics, automation. And at the end of the day, you still need people to, cut that deal, to power those machines. And I love that you started with people.
Yeah, this is, everybody's talking AI as the buzzword and everything else. And that's why this IFDA conference is so such a good tool, because that's exactly what AI is. It is a tool to enhance our current processes, not so much as to replace, but there's a lot of opportunity on display here on this showroom floor to tell us how to use AI to make current processes leaner or better. So I read a book that said you won't be replaced by AI, but the person who understands how to use it, you will.
Well said. And I think it's exactly that. A lot of the things that we didn't like doing, I call it working in the business versus on the business, I think is just going to allow us to do more of this, be more creative, strategize a bit differently, knowing that some of these tasks that are probably draining a lot of our time can be automated, in fairness.
Without question. There are a host of what I would call legacy reports that everybody in the industry looks at. And the question becomes, is it easier just to talk into it and it spits you out the proper answer, or it summarizes all your data for you and gets you to the answer so you can decide what it is you want to go? It's a fact-finding tool at ease is what it is. It's a better mousetrap currently, so we just need to understand it better.
Yes, well said. Just transitioning a bit here, is there something that is, I'll even use the word passion project. Is there something in your day-to-day right now in what you're going to do in the next 12 months that has you fired up, whether it's something new, something you're playing with, something that's outside your, call it, comfort zone? I'd love to hear about that.
You've hit a perfect topic here, and I think if everybody would sit back and reflect for a second, coming out of COVID, we're in a different era. So basically that COVID came out and the expectations changes, and then we took a beating in our management. So I've got a saying, we're in the LOL era. We're in the lack of leadership era.
Look at you. That's clever. That's very good.
So my main focus and some of the why I get excited about coming to work every day is because I get to work with some fantastic teams and get to pour my experiences in them and listen to what the current problems are. I mean, it's cool that I've been doing this 37 years, but there's several mousetraps been built since I started 37 years ago. So I try to be smart enough to recognize that I tell a good story, but it may not be in today's reality. So I draw my strength from the people that I work with. I rely on them to keep me in the game. Honestly, I think that's one of the keys to understand where you're at.
I love that. So for someone like you, you've got all this experience. Obviously, you still have a growth mindset. You're challenging yourself. So you walk the floor, you attend some of the workshops. Obviously, you're heavily involved in making sure that this is a success at the Distribution Solution Conference here. And by the way, Columbus, great city for a conference.
I would have never, when we came here to set this up, I said, what in the world have we done? But this has been, it's a fabulous location. Everything is walkable within distance. I was pleasantly surprised by how convenient this location is.
A little plug for Columbus, but I'd be leaning in hard on your marketing. A clean city. The people have been great. Great sports vibe. The university campus is off the chart. I mean,
it's been I actually thought last night, I thought, man, I may just have to come here and spend a weekend. This weekend destination, this would be a great spot.
Couldn't agree more. So key learning for you, something that got you thinking here. It might have been a reminder. It might have been something you're like, wow, I never looked at it that way, that you're going to bring back, whether it's for yourself or to your teams, because I know you're all about your people.
Correct. Well, a big thing right now is the price of real estate and the price of building is terribly high. So everybody's looking to maximize their cube utilization within their facility and inside their trucks. This is where AI can help us evaluate square footage to the racking constraints that we currently have. There's several racking vendors here operating new solutions to I call it driving in circles at night. So there's some new solutions here for that. So the racking industry, cube utilization is, I just kind of like that stuff.
And look, I think, again, that's a perfect example of it's going to, there's going to be efficiency, optimization, probably some people that can focus on other things that would add more value. So
I think it's the next 5 to 7 years are going to be pivotal in this career.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for those that choose to lean in, I think it's going to be a hell of a ride. I'm really focused on the positives. I realize that, like anything, there's going to be turbulence through change. That's just the reality. Yeah.
The AI that becomes, there's a lot of greenfield AI but the brownfield is that who wins in that era that's going to be the winner.
Love it. Listen, part of this podcast, when this was launched a year ago, was around what we're calling fresh leadership insights. Together's better. So we just want to, as a community, as an IFDA community, is learn from each other. Is there something, a leadership lesson that was imparted on you, whether it's something you read, you had a mentor, could have been something you learned from, I don't know, coaching T-ball, that you would love to share with?
I have a great example, and it's a personal story of mine. So I had wanted to work at the general office to have a bigger impact my entire career. So I'd set out that's what John Birdwell was going to do. And I applied for every job that general office had ever had and got denied. I'm getting a little older and wiser, and I said, sometimes you just need to realize where you're at and become happy where you're at. So I said, I'm never applying for another position again. I'm going to be humble where I'm at, and I'm going to build the people up around me. And I was stationary for a while, and this is where I started to invest. You're either invested in your crew or you're just interested in your crew.
Say that again. I love that.
You're either interested in your crew or you're just interested. You're just invested. You're invested right. or you're interested. Right. And I started investing in the people around me. And about 5 years later, a position at general office had come open, and I wasn't going to apply. I thought, no, setting myself up for disappointment again. And at that point, everybody in the building started coming to me and telling me, John, you need to apply for that job. And I wasn't, and it came down to the last day to apply. And a coworker came in, shut the door, and just told me I needed to have a wake-up call, that I was ready. And I applied, and very fortunately was given this opportunity. And I come to work every day, excited. And I tell some of the people that I work with, I often ask, why did you come to work today? And there's always that awkward moment of silence there, because I'm a pretty straightforward shooter. And the reason I've been able to do this 37 years is because I don't have the perfect answer, but I know I come to work every day to make a difference. And if I take that, I think I have the ability to affect the people around me and have a bigger impact than what I did in the one division. So that's why I currently love what I do today.
I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. And again, thank you for your leadership, for being a part of the success story that is the Distribution Solution Conference. And your team is very fortunate to have you helping them be the best version of themselves.
Thank you very much. This is an honor. You know, I'm an old cat, but I like the new tricks. And this is my second podcast ever, so it's awful cool.
You know, someone yesterday was saying,
thank you for the opportunity.
John, someone yesterday was saying there should be money coming out of this booth, you know, and they used to put people in. So
yeah, very funny. But
very cool.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Cheers. Welcome to podcast number 6 today. So I'm having all these great conversations. Welcome. And I'm going to start by congratulating you. Big congrats. Tell us about yourself. Name, who you work for.
Okay, my name is Adam Hansen. I work for McLaughlin Foodservice out of Milwaukee, and I've been there for almost 29 years.
29 years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to love this conversation because I'm going to have to ask you, 29 years, what is it that you still love about it? Of course, there's days that it's a job probably, and then there's other days you're like, man, I can't wait to see whatever.
Well, the list of things I love are you know, kind of, I'm getting tired. So
no, but 29 years, that's fair.
I do still love it. My favorite parts are, I'm just getting out there, the exercise, late at night, I'm by myself, and the customers. I mean, if I wasn't able to see my customer, if it was just key stops all night long, that'd be quite boring. But a lot of great customers that just...
And they've become friends over the years,
yes,
probably.
They have.
Yes, and they can't wait to see you, to rise you.
Yeah, I always try to choose the same routes over and over again. It's tough to do sometimes, but I have enough seniority where I usually get to pick what I want.
And obviously, you love this food business, though, because you got to tell us a little bit about probably the side hobby that pays a little bit, right? So what else you do?
Yeah, well, we're still trying to make it. But yes, we own a couple ice cream parlors right now, possibly opening a third in the next couple of years. But yeah, we serve ice cream. We make our own gourmet popcorn. We have a candy store. And yeah, that's just a small family business we started about 9 years ago. So Yeah,
That's cool.
We love that.
Well, you know what's cool is I always say you probably learn from what you do as well, driving, where you form relationships, you understand customer service, right? Not everybody's having good days. How do you turn it into a good day?
Yeah.
How do you deal with, I don't know, when it's like, oh no, I'm going to be late here today, or right? So all these things apply, right? Replace.
100%. I've learned a lot from working for McLain for my own business. Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely helped out for sure.
And with McLain's, is there other colleagues that were here being recognized as well last night, or that they're on the verge of getting this award? Because it's a hard award to get. I couldn't believe the criteria.
Yeah, well, it made me proud being amongst all these people. A great group of guys. I didn't know anyone personally. A rising star was with us, from my facility, but no Hall of Fame driver. But it's great to see everybody from, just the other centers that are, and other companies that they've made it. We're here. So it's really cool.
I must say, I experienced it for the first time last night. I thought, first of all, congrats IFDA for doing a great job, and because it's rightly deserved. And I would love, can you imagine if we had the opportunity to chat with every single person and they could tell us their journey, right? Because when you do something for more than 25 years, that means you've experienced some highs, some lows. Life got in the way, as you know, right? Maybe family, side hustles, all these things.
Yeah.
So what do you experience? So you're here, right? You're walking a bit, because I can tell you're a curious guy. You like people, right? Is there anything that surprises you as you look around? Because obviously there's been topics around automation and robotics, and the robots are coming and trucks. So what have you learned?
It is a little scary. What if we get into, self-driving semis, right? Then we all lose our jobs. Hopefully that never comes to that. But just the fact that we might be someday using pallet jacks to just deliver and drop. I like running up and down the ramp. That's part of the job. I get to touch the product. It's just, I know what's going in there. But the technology it's wonderful, and it's scary because, I used to know the product very, very well.
Right.
Like I was remembering, I was remembering all the numbers on the boxes. I'm like, okay,
Rain Man-ish a bit. Yeah.
Now it's kind of like, yes, I love, we use scanners to deliver. Awesome. Because it kind of saves me time. It kind of slows me down. But, I've also kind of lost touch with some of the boxes, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
There's just good pros and cons to the whole thing, really.
Well, I think with change, I look back, it's like, if you think of the internet when it came out, this is crazy. And now you can't even imagine functioning without it. So
exactly.
I look at robotics, automation. We'll take 2 steps forward. We'll take 1 back. Yeah. Now, the one thing I think it's going to help us, though, is there's components of the job that are not fun. So suddenly you get the technology so you can do other stuff. And as you know, you're the last line of defense. You're representing McLain all the way from, what Susan has promised at, 30,000 feet to what your boss's boss, and then all the way down.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the importance of that relationship, because you're not just dropping off products.
Yeah.
Right? If they're frustrated with something, you're the last line of defense. So tell me, what does that mean to you?
Well, I definitely, I'm proud of my entire team, because I know that they've got my back, and I know where to turn to for answers. When it comes to me, because I understand the customer service aspect of it, that's really all they need to see. I'll take care of them. I said, don't even call customer service. I'll take care of you.
You've got that relationship and trust.
Got that relationship, and I'm like, okay, just hang on. I'll take care of you. Stuff like that. But I know somebody's watching over my back.
We all need that in life, don't we? So you should be, for my friends listening, obviously you won't be able to see us because we're not on video, and we only have 2 mics, but you're sitting next to someone that obviously means something to you. Tell us about the relationship that you would have here.
This is the GM of our facility in Milwaukee.
GM of your facility in Milwaukee.
Josh, I believe he started in the warehouse, right? Just as a selector.
So really understands all the components of the job.
He understands. So I haven't really been close to Josh or know a lot about him until just recently, just because now he is the GM.
Right.
But he's a great guy. I love.
That's the right thing to say right now. We can have a different conversation after you and I.
No, he's very, very comfortable talking to him, and now that I know him better after this week, he's going to be one of my go-to guys.
Oh, that's cool.
Great guy. You do a great job.
As you know, business is all about trust, whether it's someone that trusts you to come and buy ice cream with their kids, and whether it's someone that trusts you when something goes sideways, let's say, they didn't get what they wanted, or there's, whatever it might be. And I think it's important to have people in your corner, whether it's a formal mentor, whether it's a boss that believes in you, that supports you. Because there's ups and downs in any career, in any job. What if someone was to get into the business today? So they're going to get into this business. What advice would you get them? What advice would you give them?
From my own personal experience, I was always go, go, go. I'm pretty fast. I like to move. I like to run. I don't want to stop at all. But I would tell future drivers or current drivers to probably slow down a little bit. You're hurting your body. And if you want to stay in this career for a while,
play the long game.
Yeah. Slow down, play smart. Like when I make delivery, loads on my handcart are easily half the size now. I would rather take in 2 or 3 loads than one large load that I'm going to struggle with. So
that's great advice. No, but seriously, because when you're unfortunately, with age, we get mature, but you want to preserve your body, and obviously you've done a good job, by the way. So whatever you're doing is working, right?
Even with all the ice cream, I'm trying.
Yeah. So for our listeners, you see a very fit driver here. That's
well, if it wasn't for this job, my other one would do me in.
Very good. And what's interesting as well, I find is, time flies by. Like I bet if we would have said, "Hey, you'd be here receiving an award," right?
Yeah.
Right? You blink. Definitely. So I think it is, I love this advice. And again, I'm reflecting on what you said there is you got to play the long game and you got to figure out a way to be really good along the way. So in your job, so a couple of themes we've picked up on: customer service, right?
I think that's number one.
Over
anything.
Right.
You can screw up 100 times, but if you have great customer service, they're going to come back, and they're not going to be upset about that one time. They're not. Usually, like you read reviews online, it's always the negative. But when you're dealing face to face with a customer, that's not it.
No.
They do see the good first, I think.
And don't kid yourself. I see it because I'm fortunate to work with a lot of the distributors and manufacturers. And your customers, they'll go back and tell their boss, I love my guy. He comes in, and that goes all the way up. And when it's time to negotiate deals, to decide who you're going to use as your distributor, they're not going to walk away from McLean because they're going to wait all the way from when that product is delivered. We know what we're getting. We're getting consistency. We're getting someone that takes pride. The odd smile when he's having a good day, right? I mean, obviously there's tougher days than others.
Yeah. I've had customers like switching routes. They would leave gifts for me. Like right before
Sorry, say that again.
Well, I've had several customers, like I'm switching routes, and they would give me gifts before I leave because they just like, they're so nice. I had one manager, I show up after not seeing her it was only like 6 months, and she just burst into tears. She's like, "You're back."
Right, you're back. We love you, brother.
I'm just doing my job.
Wow. And so obviously, one last thought, your family should be proud of this because it is a big award. Like I think, they always say that leadership is about role modeling. It's not what you say, is what you do.
Yeah.
So you've showed up for all these years through, again, I keep saying the highs and lows because life gets in the way. Do you have someone here with you to celebrate this big award?
Yes, right over there. But,
she's the one that's taking pictures. Okay.
No, I mean, of course you can't see her, but my gorgeous wife, yes, of almost 25 years. Yeah, and then we have 4 children together.
Congrats. How old are the kids?
Ages from almost 19 to up to 23.
19 to 23.
And I must have done something right because they all have they're out of two out of college, 2 in college, and they all have great jobs. One in film and TV, one in the medical field.
Right.
One's going into money and one's going into hospitality.
Wow.
So they
congrats.
Thank you very much. They see the hard work. They see the hard work that we put in, and they're there. They understand.
Listen, there's no guarantee. I've got 2 daughters, 17 and 14, so I'm in the cycle before you, so I better brace myself for the next wave. It's starting the teenage years.
Yeah.
What I love about what you just shared there is that's the power of role modeling. What they saw is dad show up.
Yep.
Dad do his thing. Dad's tired at times. I'm sure there's days of your body, right?
Yes.
And so they'll be celebrating for you when you come back, right? So Are you going to ask for special treatment now when you go back home because you're an award-winning Hall of Famer, man?
Leading up to this, they've been saying it. Oh, you're a Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Famer. Every time I talk to them, that's because you're a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Yeah. No, they totally understand and support me, and I support them, and we're just, when it comes to kids, like you said, you don't have to teach them anything.
No.
They watch you.
Yep.
They know. They understand. It just happens.
And they have really good BS detectors. That's what I realized. My 14-year-old knows when, I'm offline.
Well, I would never do that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to finish off and I'm going to share something with you because it's only been a 15-minute chat. Okay. But I must say, one of my favorite questions to ask, I do a lot of leadership training, is always, hey, would you do business with yourself? And as I sit across the table here, I would do business with you any day.
Well, thank you.
And so that explains to me your success. And you should be proud of what you've done at McLean, obviously for your team.
Yes.
I mean, you're a critical part of the equation because if you don't do it right at the end, man, the repercussions are huge in your business.
Yes.
So a big congrats. Enjoy the rest of your day here at the conference. Keep your boss on his toes. We need to always make sure that he's on his toes. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for this gift of conversation.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
IFDA Live Crave Podcast. Here you are. You can feel the buzz here, my friend.
Absolutely. It sure is great.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so my name is Brad Jacobs. I'm the Vice President of Technology and Customer Solutions at PLM Fleet. I have been in the commercial fleet management industry for about the past 22 years. I've been with PLM Fleet. I'm newer to PLM Fleet, just joined this year, and sure am happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
So I think that's a cool vantage point because obviously you've got industry experience, or I guess experience in what you do, but this industry is a bit new to you.
Yeah.
What have you seen as you're walking around the floor? What's some key insights, some takeaways, some thoughts?
Yeah, it's been really neat. It has. And, the one thing that we all have in common, I think, whether you're an equipment provider, a liftgate manufacturer, or a trailer leasing company, we all have a passion around food, right? And getting that product to the end customer in a meaningful way. And it's been really purposeful. A lot of the conversations and engagement has been a true passion for that element of this business. And the cold chain is, it's very unique. It's not very complicated, but it's very detail oriented. And that's been a really nice thing to stand out and learn about as we move forward.
Well, listen, yesterday we had the opportunity, both of us, to listen to, I think, the unicorn of Mr. Dr. Peter Cressy.
Yeah.
And he talked about strategic vision.
You did.
Strategic patience, and strategic agility. And I think these three concepts, especially in the space you play in, are probably going to get tested here because of this little thing called tariffs.
Just a little.
So why don't we talk about tariffs and what does that mean to your business? What does it mean to your customers, to your partners?
Sure.
And maybe we can use that as a jumping off point to anchor the conversation.
That sounds great. Yeah, the doctor did a great job yesterday. It was a heck of a lot of fun, and he positioned it in such a great lens. And I think so many times as leaders in companies, we ask ourselves, gas or brake? It's a tough decision to make, and sometimes brake is the right answer. So that was really good and a lot of value there. As far as the tariffs go, everything is nothing new here. A lot of uncertainty that's out there in the marketplace. I think we're just now starting to see some of the first real price increases from the manufacturers.
Yes.
Because the question has been, well, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to me in terms of dollars and cents? And nobody really knows outside of about the last month or so. So, that is starting to come into the fold. I think one of the things that we are seeing pretty dramatically is companies that have had very established procurement strategies are revisiting those strategies in a big way, right? I mean, you have companies out there that have owned for 10 years, 20 years, some over 50 years, and they're now starting to look at, is leasing a viable option? Do I go late model used trailers as a way to kick the can down the road?
So the conversation is changing, obviously.
Absolutely changing.
From your team to obviously the people you're doing business with.
Yeah. And I think from the customers, they just want transparency, right? That's what we hear. Just be transparent with us around the price increases. If it's going to go up, we understand that prices are going to go up. It's not the end of the world as long as I know how to communicate it effectively within my organization. And by the way, if the prices come back down, don't keep them up here, right? Keep them back down. So, there's been a lot of dialogue around that. I think the folks are very, very prepared. But again, those procurement strategies are changing in a big way.
And look, I mean, change is tough. It doesn't matter. Replace tariff with AI. That's obviously a big theme here over the last few days. how do you help people? Because as I talk to various people here that are working the show, they're all looking for upside, but they want to protect the downside.
Yeah.
So sometimes what that does is when we're not sure and there's uncertainty, I think that's the thing with tariffs is we don't know where it's going tomorrow.
Yeah.
For instance, as a Canadian, the tariffs are there today. They could disappear tomorrow if there's a deal that's struck. So how are you having that conversation to help people? Because obviously there is a math equation.
Mm-hmm.
There's playing the long game.
Yeah.
And we have short-term pressure. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but maybe let's just play with that.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes back to cost of ownership.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at the price increases for a trailer, we're asking ourselves, okay, how can I get the most out of every CapEx dollar that I have right now? That's really been key. And, going back to those procurement strategies, if I lease a trailer, I can probably lease 2 or 3 trailers for the same that I could purchase one before. So that's where you're seeing a lot of those companies trying to get the most value for their dollar. Yes, it's different than what they've done before, but it makes every dollar in their CapEx budget that much more powerful when they can do that. So that's one. And then 2 is late model used assets. So if I can kick the can down the road for 3 or 4 years until I get into a more certain environment, I'm going to do that. And we've seen a lot of demand for late model used assets where ordinarily maybe I'd run a trailer for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, whatever the case might be. But now if I can run that trailer for 5 or 6 years, yes, I'm going to pay a little bit more on the variable cost side, but the CapEx side is much lower and it makes the cost of ownership equation work out. Right. And then I can kick the can down the road and
are you seeing a bit of a generational shift in terms of the mindset between owning an asset and leasing an asset? And let me expand on that. So I worked for McCain Foods for 15 years, got to work around the world. So you can imagine we're moving a lot of frozen products, refrigerated products. And it was always interesting to look at the various countries where Europe, where ownership, like even home ownership, you live in Paris, you're not going to own a home.
Yeah.
So already you look at things differently, which is, can I protect my capital, smaller increments, spread the peanut butter, get more value? So are you seeing something maybe in, even if the tariffs didn't exist, is there a relationship change between ownership and leasing?
Even if the tariffs didn't exist, I'm not really sure of the answer to that question, to be honest with you. What I do know is that the companies that we're looking at right now and talking to, they're trying to be very, very mindful with everything.
That's a great word, mindful. I love that word. Yeah.
Or resourceful.
Right.
Resourceful. Yeah.
And is there strategies? Again, I mean, you've touched on it, but it is a financial risk game, and none of us have a crystal ball. Like, we don't know where this is going tomorrow. And it's kind of like, I joke when you take a mortgage out on your house, you're like, geez, I should have locked in now, right? There's these memes going around where people that locked in now are laughing because they locked in at 2%. And then, so what's some of the strategies or maybe some of the insights that you could share to our listeners that are having this conversation basically in the boardroom?
Yeah. I mean, everything comes back to information and data because it removes emotion. Okay. In these times, there's a lot of emotion going around, and everybody's, that emotion is okay. It's what makes for good, healthy business discussion. But when you can bring in good quality, solid information to make business decisions on, that's where it really gets meaningful. And there's a lot of great partners here today. Reach out to those partners, see what information that they have so that you can answer your business questions in a way that's meaningful to your fleet, to your organization, because nobody knows your organization as good as you do. Right. So what's important in your organization, but bring in other experts that can help you along the way. I think you'll find people are willing to help always, especially in our industry where it's a very relationship forward industry. I mean, we've all known each other for many, many years, which is great. Leverage that for the betterment of your organization and your cost.
And in terms of, as you're walking the floor, so as a growth mindset leader, I mean, I've seen you've been in some of the workshops, you're talking to people.
Sure.
Any aha moment? I can't believe I went there on you. A little bit of an Oprah moment, but is there an aha moment? Is there something you say, geez, that validated what I was thinking, or I never heard it framed that way, or just something? Is there some kind of key insight?
I would say the resiliency. The resiliency that everybody is facing. I don't hear anybody talking about, we can't do this or we can't do that. The question is, how do we go forward? How do we go forward in the environment that we're currently in? How do we plan for coming out of the environment that we're currently in and setting ourselves up for the best situation possible? I think that's been a pretty consistent theme, which has been great, especially with a lot of the folks that I've had the privilege of chatting with here.
Well, look, what you're going to see is, I always say together's better. This community here is strong. And it's interesting that, of course, there's people competing, but you're going to see a mindset of abundance here. It's almost like there's a lot of space there. And yes, you're going to win, and sometimes you're going to learn and so forth, but you're going to see this. It's a very, very helpful community.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
What about just shifting gears a bit. So thank you for kind of putting that lens on, if you want, around what you do, your job and how you're trying to serve people that you do business with. But what about leadership lessons? Because this podcast, the reason that we wanted to launch this, the vision all the way to Mark Allen, the CEO of IFDA, was let's share fresh leadership insights. It could relate to fleet management.
Sure.
It could not. Could be a baseball coach that gave you leadership advice that you still use to this day.
Yeah.
Could be a book you read, TED Talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk leadership here for a
Sure.
second.
I'd be happy to. I just top couple, right? Be visible, especially when times get uncertain. People are looking for direction. They're looking to leaders to show them the way when things are not necessarily as they always have been. So being visible is a really, really big component. And that can take many different forms for whatever type of leadership style somebody has. So I would say, don't be foreign to what your leadership style is, but be out in front in your own meaningful way and make sure that your people understand what the vision is and be aligned on a common direction. That is one of the most important things from my perspective is alignment. And it has to be simple. Whatever your vision is, wherever you want people to go, it has to be well understood by many levels of the organization, from your peers, if you're at a C-level, all the way down to the hourly person who's working their butt off every day. So having a simple vision, but also a very deliberate vision is really important, especially in uncertain times.
And look, I'll tell you, I think as leaders, guilty as charged, even though I teach this, probably fail miserably every day, we think we said something that was clear, or the vision is clear here. And then you listen to two people at the water cooler and you're like, that's not what we meant. And they're deploying resources and capital and so forth. So I think we owe it to our teams to have that clarity.
Sure.
I think great leaders are made during challenging times. The one thing with COVID, and maybe I'm an internal optimist, and look, there was tragic things that happened, but man, if you were visible and present and listening to people, it's amazing how it completely built trust and relationships that are still going on now as a result of you were there during tough times. Anybody can be good when times are good.
Yeah.
That's not hard to do. It's easy to do.
You test the leader when times are uncertain and when on the downswing.
Right.
That's when real leaders are made. And to your point, yes, clarity and vision is important, but it's also recurring. And that recurring, being out in front of people, being out and having a consistent theme over time. That's really important too. The average person, it takes a couple times before things really sink in, right?
Well, I think in marketing, or at least, I'm sure it's probably a bit of a myth, but is you need to see something or hear it at least 7 times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
right.
It's true. Think about it. You buy a pickup truck, blue pickup truck, then suddenly you think the whole world's driving that truck because you start seeing it. You see the ads that you probably just drove by.
Exactly.
And, one of the things that I'm learning so much through this podcast, because I'm interviewing all these great leaders like yourself, and someone shared with me, and I love what he said, is it's not only do people need to understand the vision, they need to see themselves in the vision and what role they're playing.
Yes.
And I thought that was just a good little addition to it.
Yeah, no, that's spot on.
Yeah.
And that's where the alignment comes in.
Yeah.
If you have good people and you have a good culture, you have a collaborative culture, people understand that they're playing a part of a much larger game. And largely, as long as folks are aligned, they're going to help you get there and they're going to work their butt off. As long as you're rewarding people in meaningful ways, you're treating people in a collaborative fashion, and you truly care about one another. I mean, that's one of Zig Ziglar's lessons of leadership.
Yeah,
We've all read about it,
Totally.
but it's so true.
Yep.
The human element of it cannot be understated.
Well, listen, one of the themes for me, as much as I'm excited with technology and AI, is what's old is new again. And I think the humans that really figure out how to be better humans are going to separate themselves. The ones that understand the power of relationship in this room, the ones that understand what questions to ask. Because even with AI, it's only as good as the question you ask it.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So,
and the information that it has.
And the information it has. What kind of final thoughts here? So you have an opportunity to, you're proud of where you're working. And I see your team here watching you, heckling you, probably cheering you on.
Yeah.
Is there an invitation, a call to action for anyone that's going to listen to this? Because I'm sure this is going to circulate its way on LinkedIn. It's going to make its way out here. Is there an invitation, a call to action on why should people partner and come and spend time with you and the team?
Well, I think that we have a very customer first mindset, and that shows everywhere from our headquarters in Newark, New Jersey, it's all the way to the folks that are on the front lines. And I think as long as you're building around the customer and you put the customer first, the employees benefit, and then everything else follows suit, from profitability to business success, and ultimately the success of everybody in the organization. So, if you have the privilege and the opportunity to talk with us or us to you, tell us what you want. Push us to be a better organization, and push us to demand the things that you want, because you're going to get traction with us with that. And we're certainly going to listen.
I love it. And listen, I can't thank you enough for spending some time here, chatting a bit about your business, what you love about it. And to my listeners, if you could see Brad's body language and nonverbal and his smile, someone told me 93% of what we say is not even words, right? His body language is nonverbal.
Right. Yeah.
You're all in, and I love it. And I guess I'll say welcome to the community, because you're still newer to the community here, and you're going to love it, and you're going to be able to have a ton of impact. And with that said, go get him, my friend.
Thank you very much, Julian. I really appreciate being on the call today.
Cheers. Crave, the IFDA Podcast, live and unplugged here on the floor. You can feel the energy here, my man.
I love it. It's you really can.
So tell us about yourself.
My name's John Bordewick, work for Food, headquartered out of Mount Point. I live by with my wife's nose. God, I am on the warehouse.
On the warehouse side. So where the magic happens.
One would say.
One would say. So let's talk about, what is it that you love about your job, the role you're in, your team?
Really funny, when I was up, folks would always tell me, hey, you should go into sales, or you should be a politician. And maybe so many people telling me that made me not want that. But I found out as my career progressed, building relationships, and I have found that on the operations side, I can do that effectively. And
well, if you think about, I know that we were having a little bit of a chat before we even went live here, and I know you've been taking in a lot of the learnings here. AI, EI. Let's talk about that toggle, because we're going to need superhumans in order to really lean into technology.
We are, and it's moving so quick. AI is moving so quick. I just attended a session right before I came here on emotional intelligence colliding with AI, and it was really awesome because really important as humans, we don't lose sight of that human touch, whether AI helps us with a project or helps us with email. If humans don't get involved, it's going to be a really boring place if we don't put the touch off.
Well, look, I think in many ways, AI is going to help us do a lot of things that humans don't necessarily like doing. So let's call that the IQ side. And then we're going to use our humans to do different things.
That's absolutely right. Like spend more time with our people instead of doing 5 hours of meeting recaps, 1 hour of meeting recaps, and spend 4 out talking to people, solving other problems within the business.
Let's talk about, I'll use the word special projects, something you're working on right now that really has you fired up and you're really maybe even building momentum, or you think could be a game changer. Is there something that comes to mind?
Yeah. On the safety side of things, we are trialing a project. We're towards the end of that trial. Like what it is we're using technology. It's a camera where you can film someone doing a job function. It gives them a risk score, if you will. So that's kind of a good example of the technology helping you identify a risk. But the most important part of it is we take that video, we take the score or information, and then we sit down with our employees and we go over that. And we've done this for over 6 months with our new hires. So we hire roughly 300 people a year in Mount Sterling. It's our headquarters, large facility. And our new hire safety is better than it has been ever through 7 periods or 7 months. It's been great.
And has there been leadership lessons? Because as you know, when you launch anything new as a starting point, typically we don't like change. Now, the good news, if it's well done, then we lean into change. Any learnings from this experience?
Absolutely. I think one of the key learnings was, hey, when we first rolled it out, we kind of just implemented the technology. Well, we started slow with this trial. But as we started, we said, hey, the most important part of this technology is the conversation that we're having with the people afterwards. It's not just capturing the motion or capturing the safety score. It's really the conversation piece. So we had to do some coaching there and just make sure that we approach that the right way. Because, the most important part is that folks were new to the business. So they just are starting to learn about Foods. But that is really important that, our new hires feel like, hey, they do care about me, and they've invested in this technology to help me do my job better and more effectively.
You know what I love is we didn't plan this out, but that's a perfect example again of you've got technology and it's allowing us to have better conversations, real conversations, maybe grounded in data to help people feel safer, be safer.
It is. And really so the data is important and all the tools behind it, but the visual, what we found, when we sit down with someone and show them their motions, and it highlights, hey, this is an at-risk movement, and the tech actually color codes it red, yellow, green. So it's like, hey, this movement's okay. This is not. Like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. So yeah, the visual really helps as well.
And it's interesting you mentioned EI, EQ. I've heard Jillian speak before as well, and I'm sure you talked about self-awareness, because it all starts with if you can't look in the mirror, you're not going to change behavior.
That's absolutely right. I received some advice early in my career. It was actually prior to my DOT days, but it was one of my first managers. She called me in the office, and I was actually in sales when I first started. And she said, John, you're doing great, but man, your energy is scaring people. And as a 24, 23
passive aggressive.
Yeah. I was like, whoa. As a 23-year-old, I was just out of college. I was getting ready to go, take over the world. That really hit me hit me in the face. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. And I had always thought I had decent self-awareness, but that really helped me just get in tune and just realize it was scaring people. So the other insightful thing that she shared with me is, and encouraged me to do, is don't lose that excitement. Just bottle it in and use it in pockets and spurts, and you'll be more effective. And she was absolutely right.
Well, it's interesting. You think of the Strength Finder movement, which is understanding your strengths. And then, as you know, every great strength can turn into a weakness if you don't understand it or if you use it. So I don't think you should lose passion, but it's being aware that too much passion, let's say for an introvert or someone that's a bit more calculated and thoughtful, you might lose a bit of credibility from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. Jillian used the example of empathy. Empathy is amazing. We all probably could get better at it. But if you overuse the empathy and you're over empathetic, then it can lead to not holding people accountable or not delivering that important feedback to 23-year-old John Bordewick when he really needs it.
There's a fine line as leaders that we walk. And the good news is, when you were 23, you didn't have the experience. Now you're 24? So you've grown into
a little bit older than that, but yeah, pretty close.
Very good.
Yeah.
How about, so you're here, you've invested time, you're part of this success again this year, you're part of the planning committee. Is there something that you hope to get out of this conference? Whether it was today, maybe something you got today or something you want to get tomorrow?
Yeah. So all industry events, I go into it and build and primary goal. I mean, there's going to be some innovative solutions out here. I saw a lot of them walking through today. But my primary goal when I come to any IFDA event is to build relationships. How I measure success is if I leave the conference and I share an email with a peer or someone from another company or another business, not just vendors, then that's a success. So being on the planning council for the last 3 years, I've just built in some awesome relationships and sharing emails and benchmarking with folks outside of the IFDA meetings. For me, that's the most important, is just building those and sustaining those relationships.
Well, on behalf of the IFDA community, thank you for your time, energy, effort, and leadership, because these conferences don't happen unless you've got people that are all in and making sure to represent what the people here need as well.
You're absolutely welcome. I attend a few Zoom calls and come here, travel one time. Carolyn and the IFDA staff, they're just phenomenal. They put on a good show and a great party, and I want to help with that. I by no means carried a heavy load there.
And look, I have this little signature that I finish every podcast, and you can't prepare for this, so this is raw. It's going to be authentic. If you could only use one word to describe you as a leader, what word would you pick and why? Now, it doesn't mean you're that person every day. It's something you're striving to be, because as you know, as leaders, there's tougher days than others. What's the one word you would hope that people would say about you and why?
Yeah, that didn't make the prep notes, did it?
No.
Yeah.
I like the rawness of it.
Good. Yeah. What? one trait as a leader, I would say humble and humility. 'Cause I think that's really important. Things don't always go as planned. And if you're not
So here's the deal. I love the humility here and the humbleness. I'm just going to share one thing on it is I've never met a leader that doesn't have that humbleness and humility that I wouldn't want to work for, because it means that you might not always have the answers. It means that you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room, which is a good thing, right?
I didn't know how to say it, but that is exactly where I'm going from. And I feel, and I try in my career, I've tried to approach every situation like I know nothing, because I feel like you can learn more when you go into a problem and you get others' opinions. 9 times out of 10, we're probably not going to use John Bordewick's first idea. But if you go out and you seek different perspectives and you ask, or someone asks you a question, like you said, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. But I think that's also why relationships are so important, because you can go figure out the answer.
Totally. And I'm going to finish here. Beginner's mindset. When you have a beginner's mindset, beautiful things happen. Imagine approaching every meeting like it's your first meeting at that point. So with that said, I'm going to let you get back at it. Go build those relationships. And as our fearless leader, Mark Allen, challenged us, go make 3 new friends out there tonight.
There you go. I've got one more to go.
So thank you, good sir.
Hey,
Cheers.
thank you.
Here we go. Podcast number 3, day 2, Crave, the IFDA Podcast, Fresh Leadership Insights. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So you get to tell us a little bit about yourself. And first of all, a massive congratulations. I absolutely love your speech this morning.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, it was a big honor to receive that award here today. Like I said today on the stage, it was super special for me, just because, the person it's named after, Mike Roach, who was obviously president at Benny Keith, and I came from Benny Keith. And so to receive that reward in his name, knowing Mike and knowing what he stood for and how he led when he was at Benny Keith, and the legacy that he left behind, was just an incredible moment for me.
Well, listen, I can tell you, getting a peek under the tent and funny enough, Mike Sweet was our guest on a podcast as well. I mean, you guys have an outstanding culture there. So whatever's happening, don't mess it up is basically what
we do. We really do. I love, Mike, he talks about culture week. He talks about that every day. And you're right. We do have an amazing culture there. It starts at the top and kind of filters its way down from there. Mike loves to say, culture is not words on a website. It's how people feel on a Sunday night. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, that's lived every day at Benny Keith. It's a really special place. It's hard to explain, really, if you've not experienced it. Sometimes I get a little mushy when I start talking about Benny Keith, just because it really is more family than it is a workplace.
Well, it's always interesting because when I facilitate conferences like this and you see the folks at the Benny Keith table, I'm like, whatever Kool-Aid they're drinking, I want some of it. There's something special. There's longevity, so that's always a sign. Like, how many years have you been with Benny Keith?
Really, yeah. So 20 years with Benny Keith for me.
Wow.
I'm the senior director of national accounts. So I've got 21 people on my team. The average tenure for my team is 18 years. So
are you serious?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got lots of guys that have been on my team and ladies that have been there for, 25, 26, 27 years. So we've got some newbies on there for sure, but we've got so many people with such great tenure that they bring the average up to 18 years. Yeah.
Well, I must say, when I was listening to you on stage and obviously listening to Mike set up the award, and it was funny from Mike to right?
Yeah.
So I thought, geez, this can be great because this is a leadership conversation. Obviously, you're part of the Darn program that IFDA's put on, and
right.
I love how you and everybody that's been part of it just raves about it.
Yeah, it's an incredible program.
So I think to our listeners, put your name up within your company if you haven't done that yet.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Todd, and I work for Benny Keith Foods. I'm the senior director of national accounts, like I said. So I work out of our corporate office in Fort Worth. I oversee the day-to-day operations for all of national accounts for Benny Keith across all of our 10 divisions.
Very good. So it's just important to get the context. So let's talk leadership. What did you learn from that program, or what did you learn over the last 2 days? Because here you are investing time, growth mindset, right?
Sure.
Pushing forward. So let's talk. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it was really, I didn't know what to expect when I went to Darden. Obviously there's been a lot of people that have gone through Darden before me. Even at Benny Keith, there's a lot of people. And I've known many of those people, but
I didn't ask anyone. I didn't want
That's
a
good,
preconceived
right?
notion.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to just kind of go into it blind and see how it unfolded. And I was really shocked by how well put together it was. Obviously, I knew it was going to be a leadership conference, but just the way that they run it, how organized it is, and the people that participate there. I mean, everyone there, you're one of 30, right? And everyone there is an incredible leader. And so to learn with those people and grow with those people, it was just one of the more rewarding leadership experiences I've ever been a part of. The classes, the professors would get it started, and we certainly had some incredible professors. But where the real learning came from was the back and forth between the students that were there. It was just incredible.
And is there one insight? Sometimes what's interesting when you go through a workshop, through training, a certification, is it might just validate something that you were doing that was really good, and now you're just going to double down on it, or it can help you reframe something, or it's something you didn't know. Is there one key takeaway from your experience there?
Yeah, I think it's servant leadership. They talked a lot about that. We talk a lot about that at Benny Keith. We talk about inclusion and including ideas. And, there are a lot of exercises that they put you through. And a lot of times you go into those exercises and you know kind of what they're wanting out of you. But some of them can be a little eye-opening. You think you're being inclusive. You think you're including your team. You get in, especially when you break out into your study groups, and you think you're asking the right questions, and then you find out, when you get back together as a group, that's not always the case. So it can be very humbling.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So lots of case studies, or you would get together, and some of the case studies are not in the food industry. Is that right? Or were they all?
I would say more than half of them are not in the food industry. One case study came to mind where they gave us a survival scenario where you're in a desert, right? And there's 20 items. They want you to rank those things, and then you get with your group and you re-rank them again. That was a great experience, and it was a good example of not you think you're listening to your team, but you're actually not listening. Right. And so I remember that was in our first session, and it was a very humbling experience as well.
Well, it's interesting. I would say, look, listening we don't teach listening in schools yet. It's probably the most critical skill in leadership. Having that curiosity, not judging, understanding, being able to really listen aggressively, listen with intent. Why do you think we're struggling so much with listening these days? Well, because that was a good reminder.
Yeah, it was, for sure. I think we think we are as leaders. We think we're listening. But, one of the things I caught myself doing, and I've tried to change that after going to Darden, is so we come up with a solution in our head, and then we present that solution to our team. And they go, now tell me how we're gonna execute that solution, right? No, that's not really listening. I mean, real listening, real servant leadership is to present the problem, hear everyone's ideas, and have an open discussion about that. And so I think that's a trap we fall into as leaders. I certainly fell into that trap a couple of times at Darden, and really exposed my shortcomings there.
Well, what's great, I find with these experiences is as adult learners, we might forget what was said on the slide. We'll never forget that experience or that feeling. And I'm sure sometimes you're in a meeting thinking, I'm playing that game, that survivor game. I'm not listening. Yes. I'm already driving too quickly. And then when it fails, your team will say, well, it wasn't my idea.
Well, that's the surprising thing for me is what I took back after Darden. And you're exactly right. You learn the case studies, those are all great, but the experiences that you learn, the things that you take back and, I'm falling into that trap again. That's the real learnings, I think, from participating in this program and what you take back.
And so transitioning, here we are, Columbus. It's been a fantastic setting.
It has. It's incredible.
For the conference. So as you've walked the floor, is there something, obviously you're rekindling or reuniting with friends, you're making new friends, you're asking questions. Has there been an insight or something that over the last few days here?
Well, I think it's relationships. Everything in this business boils down to relationships. And, we can get kind of caught up in all the details, all the tech, all the things that go into our job every day. And it's easy to get bogged down into the minutia of food service sales, really any kind of sales. But at the end of the day, it's all about building relationships. And so I think, that's another thing that we talk about at Benny Keith. That's of all the things we build, trust is the number one thing we build.
And again, it's amazing because you can feel trust when you're in a room. Every single time I'm in front of one of your teammates, your leadership, that's what I feel. And that's hard to do though. It's, one of I remember the conversation because obviously I learned a lot from Mike Sweet, your president. And we talked about that famous quote from Peter Drucker where he says, culture will eat strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
So yes, Benny Keith's going to get the strategy right. You've got smart people. And if you don't have the right culture, you can't execute against that strategy.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to duplicate. I mean, I've been asked that before by some of my peers and, how do you guys do that? And it's hard to just, this is how you do it. You write it down on a piece of paper. It's more of something that you live every day, not something that you can necessarily manufacture.
Yeah, and I think you've got something special when you can't codify it, because if you could codify it, you'd be like, hold on, this culture doesn't work that way.
That's right. You can't see it. I mean, you can feel it, right? And but when you know it, when you feel it.
And in terms of one of the questions I love asking all our guests is a leadership lesson, whether it came from a mentor, it could have been a baseball coach you had in grade 7. I mean, it's amazing how these things stick with us. Is there wisdom that you talked about servant leadership, you talked about listening, but is there something specific that someone gave you as advice? Because, I mean, you are leading a big team, and sometimes you need to be reminded of these.
Yeah, I think it's just always try to make time for the people that you're leading. Always try to keep their needs ahead of yours. I had a supervisor one time that said, if you will stop focusing on your goals, start focusing on your team's goals, you won't have to worry about yours, right? And so that's the secret for me as a leader is, servant leadership is to try to help those that you're in charge of on your team to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And if you just do that and you keep focused on that, everything else will take care of itself.
Well, I mean, I love what you just said there, and you're right. What's their goals? And if you understand that, of course, you can help shape the goal, given that you've got goals as well to represent the company. But if you help your people achieve their goals, you're going to achieve your goals times probably 2, times 3.
Well, not only that, but there's really no better satisfaction than helping someone achieve their goals and watching what that does to their life. I mean, I've been fortunate to have people on my team who have started at very low levels and have worked their way up, and I've had a part in that, and that's incredibly rewarding to see that.
Final question. It's a little bit of a game. If you had a T-shirt right now, because this is not being recorded video-wise, people can't see you've got a nice sports coat, but let's pretend you had a T-shirt and you could only have one word. What word would you choose to describe you as a leader? The beauty is you won the award because, it was great listening to Mike share what others had to say about you, but what's the one word you would choose? Because you would hope people would say, this is who this man is as a leader.
Passion.
Beautiful things happen when you have passion.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can't fake passion.
You can't.
I mean, if you could see your smile right now for the the listeners, they'd understand that there's passion.
Yeah.
So with that said, I hope you never lose your passion. I don't think that'll happen. How many more years do you have in this industry?
I think I've got 12.
12, so I'll say 20. How about that?
Okay.
That's how it works. We had a guest speaker yesterday, 84 years old.
Really?
And he was off the chart. So there you go. So inspiration. Hey, with that said, really, thank you. A massive congrats. I hope you're allowing yourself to be proud because these are not things that happen every day.
Yeah.
And what was amazing was seeing your colleagues excited for you. To me, that's even more impressive, right?
It was really, really, really special moment.
Cool. All right. So with that said, go get him.
All right. Thank you very much.